It looks like we're all in frame.
You see all of our bright smiley faces?
I mean, I don't see mine. Welcome back to the show. I'm John.
I'm Brittany.
And this is
Random Rewind.
Today we've got a special episode for you guys. We have a special guest here, Cary Gunner Lee, legacy technician.
Legacy Effects.
Legacy Effects. He's a you do animatronics.
We do a little bit of everything. I mean, I've worked in like every department, whether we do specialty makeup, specialty costumes, animatronics. So I've jumped around to every spot depending on what the project is.
Very well-rounded.
Exactly, yeah. I met Cary a long time ago at a company called Global Effects. This is a very special company in my heart. It was a prop shop that mostly did spacesuits.
Yeah,
that's kind of their specialty. And Cary and I worked together way back when.
The First Man, I think that was.
First Man was the first movie you worked on there.
Yeah.
I worked on the movie. I came in at Ad Astra.
That's right.
Yeah, and then you came in. You got stuck with all the Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah.
So you didn't get to work on Ad Astra. Yeah.
A little bit of First Man. Yeah, I remember Ad Astra kind of came and went by the time I got in there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? It brought us together.
It did. Yes, it did.
And now we're here. And hey, I'm here too.
Exactly.
I just met Cary right now.
Yeah, this is the first time.
But it was very, very nice. So, just for reference, if anyone's wondering. No,
yeah.
Okay, so we say special effects technician, and then, right, is that how you would put it in, like, or it's more engineering in my opinion, isn't it? Because you're kind of creating something out of nothing.
Yeah, it gets confusing because I think if we say special effects, people will go like, "Oh, do you like blow things up on set or do that?"
That's kind of the first thing,
right? Yeah.
And so it is like hard to like. Then sometimes we say like, "Oh, we work in practical effects," and they're like, "Well, I mean the same thing." It is hard to.
No, because I don't think practical effects and special effects are the same thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it is hard. Usually, what my wife does is she'll break it down. She goes like, "We do specialty costumes, animatronics,
right?
And
exactly,
makeups and stuff like that." And then people go like, "I stopped paying attention." It is hard. I don't know if there is like one or two words that just encompasses it. But I mean, the easiest references that I usually give people is like, and not me. I didn't work on this, but like we did like the original Iron Man suit, and then more recently we did Grogu, which is practical puppet.
Okay, so so it's more the effects of the like it's a prop that is an effect, because if you did Iron Man suit, it's like that's a whole entity in itself. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and people go like, "Oh, well, aren't you part of the costuming department?" Like, no, they usually specialty costumes usually means that there's lights or plastics or engineering
something
or
extra that is gonna be on there to make it more oomph sci-fi or more sci-fi, right? Because you guys at Legacy lean more into sci-fi type things, or can you do everything?
We do everything, but I'd say the nature of what we do leads us more to sci-fi.
It's more sci-fi.
Especially we do like a lot of this. We do some of the like the makeups and costumes and stuff for like the new Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. We've done all the seasons of Mandalorian and so like mostly sci-fi stuff. And
that's awesome. While you're naming these, can we just do a quick like list reference of stuff that you've worked on? That just not every single thing, because that would be almost impossible. But you know what I mean? Like off the top of your head. Because earlier you did mention, I made them stop talking about it, that you've worked on the new Fallout.
Yeah.
And John got real excited.
I'm like, holy crap. It was really freaking cool because I see the previews for it pop up, and it can go one of either two ways, right? If it follows the game very, very well and it's made for fanboys like myself and it's done right, it's going to be a very exciting show to watch. If it's done cheesy, kind of like, say, Halo, it's going to be very disappointing.
I've always kind of thought there was like three ways to do like video game adaptations. You either do a 1-for-1 remake, which is Last of Us.
Yeah.
Or you do the characters but a different story like Halo.
Yeah.
Or you do the universe and a new story, which they've exclaimed that Fallout is going to be.
So Fallout doesn't follow the person that you're playing as Fallout. It's the same universe but a different story set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they
that makes sense.
weren't necessarily interested in trying to retell one of the video games, but rather take or do new
And
characters
it would
within the
be
existing.
almost impossible to retell a video game, right? Because we choose our destination
That-
in
yeah,
Fallout. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
For the most part, but there is a basic
There is, like, the
storyline
basic
in
story you could
Fallout,
follow,
especially like
but-
Fallout 4. You know, there's a very specific storyline that you can follow. But yeah, you run around. It's an open world. So
You
do
can
what
run
want.
around
Yeah,
openly, so it's almost like choose your own adventure,
Kind of,
to an
yeah.
extent.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
I get it.
yeah, that formula makes the most sense to me, to stay in the universe but do new characters. Because as good as I thought Last of Us was, and a lot of the time you think like, okay, well, I know exactly what's going to happen.
You know what's
do.
going to happen. Yeah.
I'm sure they change. It's almost like adapting a book. It's like, yeah, they can change things here and there, but the formula is kind of the same. And so I think it's more interesting, at least, to do the universe with new characters, because then at least you don't know what's going to happen.
Well, you
Right.
have no idea, and you're
Right.
introduced to a whole new. You know the world, but you're in a new, the new set or cast of, here's so and so who you didn't know
Yeah.
was, back here behind.
But I
this
mean, you
house.
can do that with stories like Fallout, quite honestly, because there
Yeah.
are. You're watching one person's view of the leave of the vault, where
Right.
there's thousands of people have left these vaults. You can
Right.
follow any of these people.
Yeah, to get back to it,
Yeah.
I guess the things that come to mind for the first thing I did at Legacy was Captain Marvel, which was my first Marvel movie, so that was exciting.
Nice.
I've been a part of, I think, all the Mandalorian seasons, which has
Okay.
been very fun. Fallout was one of the most recent things that I've done that is like now starting to come out. It's out next month, but like now there's like trailers and stuff out. And for a long time, you kind of just like you can't say
You
anything
can't
about your
say
involvement
anything,
or
right?
anything.
It just popped up on my Amazon, so it's
Toys
either
and
out or
everything.
coming out
Yeah.
next week.
But so I took the piece that I was involved with was the power armor. So I brought I
So-
finally got to talk about it when I brought the
Is
power
there
armor
a
to Brazil.
full piece of power armor out there?
There's a full armor that a gentleman named Adam Shippey wears. So he was the stunt performer for the power armor, and it's a 7 foot tall, 100-pound suit that is incredibly hard to wear for all day, every day for many months of filming. But the guy is a stud that wore it, and
Wow.
it's
I mean, professional actors, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You gotta give them credit. Just
I couldn't wear that thing.
You kind of look back at the Ad Astra or even First
Mhm.
Man. Those guys are wearing full on spacesuits.
Oh yeah, you just
It's ridiculous.
So-
That's nuts.
something that like every now and again happens at Legacy is that it's easier sometimes for them to build a character around somebody there. So I played a character in Obi-Wan because it's to get actors in for fittings all the time and to like build around somebody that's not there can be really difficult. So sometimes our bosses will kind of pitch, be like, listen, there's this kind of like background character, like let's just build it around, like we got a guy, we'll use him. So I played this kind of raptor looking bounty hunter in the Obi-Wan series.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Oh my
yeah, I
gosh.
saw that.
Okay, did you see him? Do you
Yeah,
know which one it was?
I know who he was. Yeah, I saw that.
Pointed it out.
I saw that whole series. So
So
yeah,
the animatronic head rig for it is so heavy and cumbersome that like after a few days of filming, I was like, man, my back is like all messed up
It's
and stuff.
bad.
And I was
I
like,
bet.
this is why stunt guys get paid
I-
more than I do.
I
Right,
couldn't.
right.
I literally wore the Chuck E. Cheese outfit once when I worked there. So, and I couldn't handle it. So you saying 100-pound suit and then plus an animatronic on like that seems.
and you're talking about multiple takes, and you're talking
Well,
about
just being out, and are you outside? Is the sun shining? Like, oh my gosh!
We went through the both climates. So we filmed in the summer of New York, which was just
because you were rooftops, right?
weddings. I'm sorry.
It looked like rooftops.
There is,
some
but
of
we
them,
filmed
yeah.
outside a lot. Like
Okay.
there is an area in the trailer where there's this kind of like flooded quarry looking thing. And we were
Oh, got it.
outside
Oh,
for
that's right.
days and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. The scene in the quarry.
And then on the flip side of it, we filmed so long that we got into the winter in New York, and that we were
Oh,
in a
wow.
subway at like 3 a.m, like just like shivering, and like I
It's
look
cold,
over
man.
at Adam, and I was like, I bet you're glad that suit is so warm now.
Right? Adam's like, finally.
pretty much. But so yeah, it's pretty extreme. And so like the last thing that I wore is I played the Tubi Rabbit there was a Super Bowl commercial last year, and even though it didn't weigh anything, not really.
Yeah.
It's got an animatronic head, which is hot, but like the
Sure.
suit itself is just a fuzzy like mascot. But I'm like, I was in Mexico City sweating
Oh,
every day.
man, that
I'm
just
pretty-
seems too
cow,
hot.
dude.
It's just like saying like for how minimal it looks like, it doesn't look like it's heavy. It doesn't look like it should be uncomfortable, and it is comfortable, but it's fur and it's hot and
Yeah,
it's sweating.
there's
like,
no getting around that.
no, and
It's
like
hot.
after like 12 hours, I'm just like, peel me out of this stupid thing.
Wow.
Please.
I couldn't honestly imagine. Dude. I get so claustrophobic in the stupidest scenarios. So being in something like that for a period of time where I have to talk myself out of a panic.
I panicked. So I panicked the very first day of Obi-Wan, and I was wearing the raptor head. And so the problem is the head is up here, and where I see through is a little slit in his neck.
Right.
And now my boss is the one controlling the head.
Oh.
We tried doing it where sensors on the head and sensors on me, so it follows my movement. It just looked better with him controlling it separately.
Okay, it's like a remote control almost type
Yeah.
thing, right?
So he's got a
Wow.
line of sight on me, and like we kind of rehearsed a little bit. So I was like, I move this way, you look this way, blah blah blah. Anyways, the thing is like that it was so close to my face that anytime he would turn the head like drastically, the skin of the creature would just go.
Oh, like the neck would turn basically and hit
Yeah,
you in the
and
face.
it would just drag across my nose. I lose sight. And so I did almost the entire shoot blind. They would let me kind of rehearse, be like, okay, take these steps, and I would rehearse. I would rehearse with my eyes closed, knowing that like I would probably lose my sight partway through. So I just figured,
Oh my god.
it was easier to do it all blind instead
Sure.
of being like, I can see, I can't see. But the other thing is that it's really stifling when he like the skin would go over my nose, and then I was like, I can't breathe for a second. I have to like keep doing these actions. And afterwards, I'm just like, I feel like he's doing it on purpose.
Right? Does he have a grudge agaed you?
Sounds
Sounds
like
like
trying to
it.
tell me something.
Oh,
They're like,
man.
hey, we need a guy. You, let's go.
Exactly.
Carrie, get in the suit. What? Why me? Oh, don't worry.
You're the only guy for the job.
Yeah.
It can only fit you.
Exactly. It's
So,
made for you.
so things that look like so like mundane on screen can be like really tough. And so like every time I see some of these shows, I'm like, man, that's gotta be really hard. Like the guy,
Know because you know from experience. So when you watch Spaceballs and you see that guy in that melting Pizza the Hut in that real melting cheese, you're
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I know how it feels to be taken offset, put into a costume, and at least you're not Well, you kind of are technically melting. They're not trying to melt it, but you're hot.
Yeah.
the good news is he's already supposed to look like he's melting, so it kind of just blends in.
So it already
Yeah.
blends.
Yeah.
Like,
But can you imagine
what?
being in a costume like say the Grinch, where Jim Carrey had to go?
Well, that was insane. He had to go through
hours and hours
he
of
had to do
costume.
CIA training to get through makeup because it was so intense and the amount of hours that it took.
Right.
And then once it's on, you can't.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You can't scratch. You have to really train yourself.
Yeah. You just
That
take
is-
it. You're just
you
taking
have
it.
to,
Yeah.
but it's all for the love of the show must go on.
So another one that I should have mentioned was like they did Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and like just seeing the army of makeup artists, because it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't translate perfectly on screen, meaning like there can be 50 people in makeup, like whether it's background or like featured characters, and on screen maybe you only see like 6 or 7 of them. But it's crazy to me to think of how like this army of makeup artists, they have to like, okay, like who's going on first, like who's going last and stuff, and all these people that are sitting in the chair for hours and hours, like especially the main cast. Like I imagine that part of the reason they put Drax in a vest through this movie is like, we gotta stop spending 8 hours like putting all these like his,
Oh, right.
because all those are
All the little,
transfers, so,
every
like,
little
yeah.
thing, right?
So he's got to get like fully body painted. You got to apply all
Well,
those
that
things
is
to
so
him.
just 8 hours of getting ready and then shooting. Then you're just starting your day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Seriously.
like-
And then you're how many hours a day can you honestly shoot after that?
Yeah, that's the other thing is like, how do you get the most out of it? So you make sure you film that guy as much as you can that day and stuff.
Right.
But if he always looks like that, it's got to be tough. And the thing for like makeup artists, it sucks for them and the people in it. It's like first one's in, last one's out.
For
every
sure.
day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are the ones putting it on, taking it off, right?
Yeah, I would see we would wrap. So like we were dressing the Orgo sentries, these like pink fleshy weird looking things in that
Sure.
movie. So all we did, we dress actors in suits. At the end of the day, we get them out and then we go home.
Yeah.
And so like we'd get back to the hotel and I would see Alexi, the guy who was leading the makeup department. And he would just I was just see him at like 2 a.m, just like furiously taking notes for the next day and like knowing he has to be there at like 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
whatever,
So he's
just,
not
like,
getting any sleep.
Oh, he's not sleeping.
I don't
at
know.
all.
I don't know how. I was like, you must just be pouring Red Bull straight into your eyeballs at this point. Like, I don't know how you.
That's
are making
insane.
it
Just
through
living
this.
off adrenaline or something, man.
Yeah, so it's like it's a crazy thing to do, just the amount of hours, and it's like, yeah, maybe in between you're not as stressed, but to be stressed at the beginning and the end of the day seems like, and then of course you're also always watching the monitor to make sure your guy looks good. Like people
Sure.
responsible for the main actors, it's got to be incredibly stressful.
It's daunting. And you never would have thought when you think about like, oh, people working on a movie set, you don't think like, oh, makeup artist is the one who's getting the least amount of sleep. Like you wouldn't think that, but especially in special effects, it's like, oh my gosh. And then it has to look exactly the same the next time you do it.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Continuity
Which
is
that
huge,
in
right?
itself is like, you put a wrinkle over here, like that wrinkle better be there the next time because people always catch that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm one of those annoying people that'll sit there and be like, oh, that cup was there and now it's blue, or you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
people catch those little things. So and
Yeah.
but then when you go to the reality of it, like how when that's your job.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
you're all sitting there making sure these, and of course there's going to be little things that slip through, but like you said, this dude's running on 2 hours of sleep, if that. So it's like, Oh, I couldn't even imagine.
It's
Like,
a lot of pressure.
it's a lot, and it seems like fun. Like to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like the best job in the world. But of course, with any job, there's going to be
It becomes a
good
job.
and bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's still
it
a
does
job.
it does become a job after a while, I'm sure.
I do eventually. So Fallout was one of the hardest things that I filmed, but then enough time had passed where I only thought of the good stuff, and I was like, I guess the payoff is worth it. And I haven't even seen the show yet, but like just to like having done it and like starting to see the trailers and stuff, I'm like, okay, that was worth it. It's
It
like, I
was
hope they
worth
feel
it.
the same way because yeah, it's got to be. It's got you have to love it, otherwise, like, I mean, what else are you doing? You can't just go, oh, this is just a job, it's a paycheck.
It's you're in it because you're in it for the love.
Yeah.
It's the love of the film and the cinema. And okay, so you mentioned a few things because we had Fallout, we had Mandalorian. What's your favorite though? Like when you think back, like what's the number one as of right now? That obviously you're doing more, but just in this moment, what's the best?
The funny thing to me is that I work with people that have worked on like the original Jurassic Park and Iron Man and all this stuff, and I always imagine that they would pick one of these big blockbusters as their favorite thing. And the funny thing to me is that every time I've asked one of these like seasoned veterans, their favorite thing is always such an innocuous random thing. When I asked a girl who was, I think, on Jurassic Park and like all these other like major franchises, her favorite thing was this teddy bear that she made for a commercial and got to puppeteer and just thought it was really fun.
And like that was her go-to.
Yeah.
She's like,
Really?
technically I'm a ventriloquist, and so this was like right up my alley. Or,
Yeah.
But it's cool because you think you're like, oh yeah, Jurassic Park, like they're always gonna pick that first just because it's so iconic. But it's more iconic to the general media or the general public than I'm sure it is for the people working behind the scenes.
Right, you've
Like
gotta-
you said, you remember the
Yeah.
good,
Yeah, you have that favorite thing. You always have that favorite
but
thing.
there's
you've
always
worked
that
on.
favorite thing. But what's your favorite thing?
Honestly, and this might be a recency bias, but Fallout was so fun because it was the first time I was kind of in charge of a project, so that was kind of like the big boy shoes
like
moment.
it was like you're like the boss, like
Yeah, so what really happened though is that there were so many other projects going on at the shop. They're like, they were spread so thin. They're like, okay, we'll give Cary a chance to lead.
Oh,
this
so
one.
didn't you
so he
know?
just talks
I was
himself
gonna
down.
say,
Just
I know, don't talk yourself down.
the fact that this guy is like super skilled. I've seen the quality of work this guy produces. It's freaking ridiculous.
that's
And he's
what I
like,
was gonna
oh,
say.
they just gave me a shot.
They're gonna no, don't dumb yourself. They gave it to you because they knew you could do it. So just remember that.
So that was one of the ones I was most proud of for the final product in terms of like I've seen it now on screen and I go, okay, it looks
watched it now.
just in terms of like the trailer and stuff. Like I haven't been shown like the episodes or anything, but like just seeing like the power armor on screen is very rewarding. It also brought me to a lot of cool places. We went to Namibia.
Really?
For a week. We filmed in the salt flats in Utah, and then we filmed in all over New York and Jersey,
Fun.
and all for a show that takes place in California. I was like, we have sand
I was
over
like,
there
what,
too.
right?
We've
It takes place
we
here.
do
It's
have
like,
dunes
we-
here, man.
Well, usually it's the opposite because usually they're trying to make Southern California
Exactly.
look like anywhere else. But now
Yeah.
they took out weird, but fun fact. I love that.
There is a scene in the trailer that was from Namibia. And I remember flying to Namibia, and this isn't a slight against the production or anything, but I'm like flying there. I'm like, what are we going to Namibia for? And then I saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like there is stuff you just either it's impossible to recreate. Like there's like abandoned diamond mines out there. There's always
right.
Like,
If
broken
you've got
down
if you've
rusted
got
buildings.
pre-existing structures that are old and decrepit,
Yeah.
and dilapidated, specifically for an apocalyptic type show,
Yeah.
it makes sense to go to set.
Yeah.
To go to location, I mean.
It's the first day I was like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
That seems like so much fun though. Like,
Because like when they showed like the Santa Monica Pier all torn apart,
Yeah.
was that shot out here?
No.
See, that's the freaking cool thing. Was that
Yeah.
all CGI? Probably.
wait, I was gonna say, well, if you can't,
I never
Say.
know how much I can pull back the curtain.
yeah, that's,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Anything you don't think you can, no, it's fine.
I
Yeah.
usually follow like the lead of I've been like watching the interviews they've been doing and stuff, and
Yeah.
so Jonah Nolan has been mentioning, and it's very very nice that he's been mentioning Adam a lot. So
Okay.
like, a lot of the times, and I'll use Mandalorian as an example, is that Brendan Wayne, who is John Wayne's grandson, and Lateef Crowder, who those two share duties of the Mandalorian, meaning that they're usually the ones wearing the suit with the helmet.
Okay.
Pedro just isn't not in it as much as people maybe
Right.
think.
Yeah, he wouldn't be.
And so, like, those guys, for the first, I want to say 2 seasons, don't quote me on that, but they didn't really get top billing, even though they were the ones that were pretty much always in the suit.
Really?
And so, like, and then
I
now
see,
they
I
have.
see why. Unfortunately,
I get it to a degree.
To a degree, but at the same time, it's just not freaking cool.
A bit of it is like business is business.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
Pedro is our,
I mean,
star, our marketable star.
You
Yeah.
look at the way Hollywood does
Mhm.
business, and you go, okay, I know they're going to do it this way. But the fact that they changed it though, that's kind of cool though.
So you say in the last season, they got top billing.
That's good.
Like, Brendan and Lateef were kind of
that's good.
One of the first cast listed, which is really nice. Something that I would you basically go, they don't have to do this, but they're doing it out of respect for you.
That's good.
Because it is kind of like a pulling back the curtain moment where you go, you're now suspending disbelief that Pedro's in the suit and that it's these guys.
Right. Everybody's always thinking that Pedro's in the suit.
Yeah, but now you're willing to do that to give these guys their credit where credit is
Credit
due.
is due.
And
and then most people, like 99% of people, are still not going to catch that. So it doesn't really matter.
And so the same thing happened for Fallout, where technically, Adam is never. It's not Adam in the suit. It's one of the other actors and stuff.
Of course, he's not going to be in the suit. That would be silly.
But poor Adam is in the suit all day.
Yeah,
it is. And so
he's in the suit. Dang it! All right, all day, every day.
So it is really nice before the show even comes out. It's really nice for them to sing their praise for this guy who like literally broke his body for this show to like just to go through months and months of filming.
Right.
And for them to shout him out is really nice because I don't see that very often.
No.
I see plenty of suit performers and puppeteers.
No. Who's the production company behind?
Kilter Productions. So that's Jonah Nolan, Christopher Nolan's
brother. That's right.
That's his production company. And that's another part of I wanted to say about the Fallout being my favorite one is that like I made like a lot of like really good, close, like long lifelong friends on that show.
That's cool.
A lot of the time you kind of go and you do your job. It's not often that I am on a show from start to finish.
Right.
And so like I was on this one from pretty much from start to finish. The Power Armor was in it almost all the time. I play a character in it that I can't.
You won't
reveal.
say. Yeah.
But so like I was there for pretty much the whole.
I'm so excited.
The whole
Excited.
When it does come out,
April 11th, people. April 11th.
We're gonna have to like put it up and like be like, dang it, I see it.
Maybe we'll have to do a first episode review or something like that.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
I really hope it turns out well. I really do. I'm rooting really heavily for this show.
You mean it is gonna be really well because Cary was the one doing it.
Well, I want to say that, but I have such a hard time trusting trailers anymore. That once a show comes out, you're like kind of disappointed sometimes, like Halo.
Trailers are like the great. It's almost something that I've always found annoying is when people overhype things to me. They go, "You got to go see the new this or that. It's the best thing I've ever seen."
Right.
And to me, a trailer can do that. Where if a trailer is really good, then it's really hard to go higher up from that. Like,
well, you're disappointed when you watch it. You're like, "Wow, I was so excited by this trailer that when it actually did come, I was like, oh." I'm
guilty of like falling victim to trailer hype because I can get so excited over a trailer.
I can too, and then there are some like sometimes I will refuse to watch a trailer before a film comes out.
I've done that once.
Show. Yeah,
I've only done that once, and that was for the last Avengers, and I was like,
"Oh, for the Avengers, I did the same."
I was like,
for
I just don't want. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For some reason,
I didn't want to see any of the previews for it. No,
you wanted to
I like they would come up like an ad would come up on YouTube. I'd leave the room. So if my kids were watching YouTube,
you left the room.
Because my kids are watching YouTube. I'm not going to shut it off for them.
No!
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of here.
So I would just leave the room so I wouldn't catch it. I mean, I might catch a glimpse of it, but I'm not sitting down watching the whole thing. No.
Man, I will ruin myself with trailers all day.
Yeah,
I almost want to know. I want to know what I'm getting into before I start it, kind of thing. Like I've done things blind, but I do like trailers. But I think because like we're talking about that hype up, you feel that emotion. The fact that it's not out yet makes it even more of like that anticipation. So that it's really an art. Trailers.
Do you know what movie?
As an editor, I'm like, this is art for.
It is.
A movie I watched without ever knowing it existed.
Yeah.
The Matrix.
Really?
So Chauncey and
me too, actually. But I was came out in 99.
99.
So I was 11 when it came out. Yeah.
Yeah. So 99. Well, Chauncey and I were at the theater at like I don't know what it was. Like I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. We're walking by. There's like an outdoor mall in Long Beach. And we're walking by, and there were like a bunch of people in line for this movie.
You're like, what?
We're like, let's go watch this movie. We wanted to watch it, and I've seen it 100 times since.
That's kind of fun, though. That's a fun blind one.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch the trailer, though, it makes sense to me why people got so hyped over it. It's another like classic example of a trailer just like really selling it. And, like,
right. Yeah. No. I've seen the trailer since.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do agree with going in. I wish I had more discipline to go in blind more often.
Yeah,
right?
I don't. That was the only like Avengers was it. Endgame was it for me. After that, I will watch stuff like
was it worth
like
it,
film
though?
theory and stuff like that.
Well,
beforehand.
But
was it worth it?
Yes,
yeah.
Like, did you feel better not seeing the trailer before you actually saw the movie? Well, I guess both of you because you both did it with the same movie.
Entirely surprised the entire thing. Like I had assumptions like what was gonna happen, but I didn't know for sure because it's freaking Disney. They're gonna do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, you didn't.
And it was pretty impressive actually.
I started at Legacy like right as they were done working on Endgame.
Oh really?
But the one thing that I did see was a mold and this is almost as bad as watching that trailer, but I saw a mold for the old age Chris Evans makeup for when he shows up at the end as old. And I'm like, God damn it.
That's like
ruined it.
That's
You ruined it for yourself.
That's like literal end scene right there.
Yeah,
dude.
I was like, well, it's almost like when you see a part in a trailer when you go, well, I'm in my head, I'm like, that hasn't happened yet, so like now I'm waiting for that to happen. And so that was for Endgame. I was like, well, he shows up as an old guy eventually.
You know he's gonna be old eventually.
You just hope it happens early on so you can get that out of your head and be like, okay,
Right.
now blank
It's
slate
the first
again.
scene. You're like, yes, okay, good.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like making props for shows ruins them a tiny bit too. Like, you know what's gonna happen. Like, we made like I have not worked in prop making. I'm not a prop master in any which way, shape, or form like Cary is. But I designed the helmet for Ad Astra, the face shield that was shattered, right? So I drew out the shatter pattern.
I remember that one actually.
Yeah.
Was it a monkey hit it or punched through?
A monkey punched through it. So we knew the scene that was gonna happen. It was like a chimpanzee
You put like little
in
monkey
space.
marks on.
In space, shattered the
little
face
hairs still
shield
on there.
and like killed
See,
him.
I'm thinking about props.
Yeah,
So you go all
exactly.
the way in.
Yeah, look, little monkey fist left in the but then you knew that was gonna happen in the movie. Did you ever watch that movie?
I did.
Did you like that movie?
I was whelmed.
I was underwhelmed.
You know, that was an example of maybe being like, and I wasn't as involved as you were in Ad Astra, but like my experience at Global wasn't awesome. So like something about your involvement with it can either sour it or improve it.
Right.
I was just literally thinking that in my head right now, because what if something gets ruined for you, right? Like, say whatever, Star Wars, like your favorite thing ever, and you're working on one, and then it's just not, like you said, you were lucky with Fallout because the cast and everything, it was such an awesome environment. But what if it was switched and it was an opposite environment? It could spoil how you think of the final outcome, because you think back to those kind of like,
it's kind of a PTSD thing. So Dungeons and Dragons was that for me. It was the hardest. I was like swearing in the shop. Like, it was just, we won't get too deep into it, but like just a very difficult project.
Okay.
And like, and I couldn't help but forget that when I was watching it. And so like every time like this character I worked on would go and scream, I'm just like,
you like exactly like a little bit of cringe.
Did you like that movie ultimately?
I did actually. I was pleasantly surprised, and I know nothing about D&D really, but like, so and I don't know if it's one of those ones where going in fresh-minded helps you or hurts you kind of thing.
I don't think it matters because it doesn't really.
I don't think it follows the lore.
I mean, D&D, there's no storyline, right? Everybody makes up their own.
Yeah.
So this is just a made-up storyline that happens to have creatures within the universe, right?
Yeah.
So that's about it.
So that experience ruined that movie for me a little bit, and then like on the flip side, I imagine Fallout will be much nicer.
You'll feel well, and plus, like being in your industry, when you talk to people or you meet someone, they're like, "Oh, what do?" You could be like, "Well, I worked on," and you're gonna throw out your favorite one first. You know what I mean? You're like, "Well, I worked on Fallout." And then you'll feel, that kind of accomplishment. But it was funny because we asked you to send us a list of movies, and every single movie on that list was sci-fi related or based. So but I'm saying like
all but one. The Rock was not really sci-fi.
But I'm saying like
also.
obviously
True Lies is not also sci-fi.
But obviously working in this industry has not, like, you don't hate sci-fi now being in, you know what I'm, like you said, it was a love. Like, you had to have that love for it. And you seem to have a love for sci-fi, so it comes full circle with like your job and it all together. Whereas you love musicals, it might be a little harder to go all the way in sci-fi. But you seem like a sci-fi person, so it makes it easier. And I mean, John's the same way; he's super sci-fi, and like you guys could probably talk about props all day.
Probably.
It is like it's a really like dangerous line to toe. So like making that list, I was like, man, like sci-fi really did shape my childhood, and obviously kind of informed how I would choose a career as an adult. But then the danger you run into is, do you stop loving the thing because if it's your job, then maybe it ruins it for you, and B, if it's not the like property or the franchise that you want to work on, is that going to make you not do your job as well? And thankfully when I got to LA and I started doing jobs, and I realized like, oh, I like the work more than I like the franchises I'm working for, because I've seen people that were like, oh, I don't want to work on it unless it's let's say Star Wars or something and stuff. And so
but you don't get to choose.
Exactly.
Well,
and that's the problem, is that
but you're saying that the love of the work, the love of building and creating overpowers any sort of thing you would think about the movie or whatever.
Right.
But I like, it's so cool. And like, out of all the movies you sent, I did pick the final one.
And it's actually, he mentions Marvel quite a bit. It's actually technically the first Marvel movie.
Is it count as a Marvel? Well, because it was a comic.
Marvel owns the comics.
Oh, that's
true. I was gonna say, because I know. Okay, well, first let's pause back to the movie we're talking about. So Well, let's list the list because we had Matrix, we had you said The Rock,
Yeah.
we had what was that other one?
Is Jurassic Park on there?
Jurassic Park was on there.
Something with an S.
Yeah.
There was something with an S. I swear there was.
Independence Day was on there. I'm pretty
Independence
sure.
Day. That's the other one I was thinking about.
Another Will Smith movie. Yeah.
Yeah, he
A
was.
year after. I
A
mean,
year later.
He was
I know.
in his anyway, since we're talking about Will Smith, the movie I chose out of this list was Men in Black,
Yeah.
which came out in 1997.
97. Yeah.
And it was when we were just talking about before you got here, we were talking about special effects on like just even from like Men in Black. When Men in Black came out, it was so iconic. I think I might have went into that movie blind because I was pretty young. I had no idea what I was
did
going
too.
to
Now that I
see.
think
You know,
about it, yeah.
you're like, yeah, okay, we'll go in. And now I know it was a comic book, but I didn't know that back in
Yeah.
the day.
No, I didn't know when it came out. I had no idea it was a comic book prior.
That seems like a
That-
boring
that's something.
comic book.
That's something I learned in the last like 10 years.
I'm learning this now.
That's
I
awesome.
did not know that.
Hey, Cary, guess what?
Yeah, Men
There's
in,
a comic
Men in
book.
Black was a comic book and was purchased by Marvel.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's technically
One of
the
the
first
first-
Marvel
okay,
movie, but
okay.
not filmed by Marvel.
Sure.
Obviously, I think it's Fox. I think that shot. I'm not
Whatever,
really
they
sure.
were ahead of
Yeah.
their time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a movie.
yeah.
But
It was a real good movie because it's a buddy cop scenario, kind of like say Bad Boys or whatnot.
Yes.
But it doesn't have any kind of conflict between the two. It
Mhm.
doesn't have any. It executes this full storyline in 90 minutes.
Mhm.
And
I
think
just
about it.
remembered that. It was only an hour
It's
and a half.
only
Yeah.
90
And you think
minutes.
about
You
how
can-
much happens.
You can
So
watch
good.
this movie twice in the time it takes to watch Endgame.
Oh, God, that's right.
I'm down.
It is. I remember the humor really being the two things that like I remember like from a kid is like I thought the aliens were really cool, obviously.
Yes.
And like the humor was so fun. Like,
Oh,
Tommy
yes.
Jones is
Say what you're
hilarious.
thinking. Say that part that you're thinking is the funniest. Is there one that just comes to mind from when you were a kid?
I know which one it is. Which
You
one
know
I
what I'm
think.
talking about?
I think I know which part I'm talking about. There's two parts that I
I wonder
love
if
out
me
of
and
that film.
Carrie are thinking of the same,
Yeah.
or what your go-to funny moment.
Well, I have two. One of the funniest things to me is when Will Smith shoots the little girl and he
Yes.
goes through explaining,
Absolutely, so great.
and he's like,
His
that guy's just working
explanation.
out. Yeah, his explanation.
His
is-
explanation is spot on.
Those quantum physics books, she could not read those. She's
Yes.
8
What is
years
she up
old.
to?
Yeah.
What is she doing out here?
That guy right there, he's just got a cold. He's just
got a cold.
he's got a Kleenex in his hand.
Homie's just working out. How would you feel if you were working out and somebody came and busted a cap in your ass while you're working out?
Like, he's fine.
one of the other ones I love sending memes to my wife
Yeah.
or like gifs and stuff, and like
Sure.
one of the ones I always send like is if like it's a long day at work, I always send her Vincent D'Onofrio. I think he's walking out of the restaurant and he's like trying to walk like a human.
Oh,
He
yeah.
looks so awkward. I go, this is what my body feels like after a long day at work.
Dude, but his acting though, with like, oh my gosh, like after the skin suit's on and it's
His facial expressions, the
So
way he
good.
made him. I know they added makeup and what do you call aesthetics to his face
Mhm.
and whatnot to make him look more surreal,
Mhm.
but he did a lot of those facial features himself, and he did such a good
I
job.
don't think
at
he
it.
gets enough credit for how good it looks and feels, and you believe that he's an
No.
alien 100%. Like, there's no question in your mind.
It's also like a really fine. I think Rick Baker did all of like the prosthetics and stuff,
Yes,
and
yeah,
even
he
the
did.
aliens.
He did.
And like, it is like a really like fine line to toe of not making Vincent look comical,
Right.
because it is very like subtle. What they, I mean, he just,
Oh, yeah.
he just looks
Other-
little like scrunched
other
up
than
and
that's what
weird.
I'm saying.
Other than the
like-
face pull, yeah.
But the way he pulled it off and portrayed it, how you said it, is perfect because it's not comical. It's comical, but like barely, right? Like it's
Yeah.
you're more concerned of like, wow, he's pulling off being a human or whatever. Kind of like it's a slightly off, but it's not comically annoying, right?
No,
like it's like
it's
whoa,
super subtle. Like just even the way he says sugar, sugar.
sugar water.
I've always been like really fascinated by the things that don't translate on the script. Things like how you say sugar and how you
Yeah.
walk. Like you can't just say walk exactly like this on a script.
No,
It
no, no,
makes
of course
sense.
not.
So like,
Yeah.
I've always loved the amount of things I know that have to be kind of like made up, not necessarily on the day, but like have to be like workshopped and not just like.
Like his interpretation of it,
but
pretty
his-
much in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's things that you can't use as a selling point when you're trying to like make a movie. You can't.
Oh,
be like,
no, not
and
at
he's
all.
gonna walk like this, and he's gonna say sugar. And,
Yeah.
and like you
No,
can't.
no.
How could you ever sell that? To
You
somebody?
couldn't.
It's just like you have this thing, you're making this thing, and then you make it the best. It's like a lightning in a bottle. Like
It's
you,
like
it
lightning
really
in a
is.
bottle. It's that magic that comes from like
The-
improv.
The
Mhm.
other, I think, part that is understated in the film is how Siobhan Fallon says Edgar. Edgar.
Says what?
Edgar. She says
Edgar.
Edgar, but she
Vincent's
doesn't
name,
say Edgar. She doesn't pronounce the D.
yeah.
She always says Edgar.
Edgar.
It's her role is so well. She played that role so well, and I think it's super understated in a lot of reviews that are out there about the movie. You know what I mean?
I remember seeing it and I was like, I think Will Smith's just playing Will Smith, but I remember like Tommy Lee Jones, how fast he talks, like how snappy he is. Like that was always like one of the funniest bits to me.
That is pretty funny because that's not Tommy Lee Jones.
Exactly. So it was like I just see Will Smith in that movie. Nothing against it, but like he's playing Will Smith.
Will
Smith plays Will Smith.
And Will Smith played Will Smith in Independence Day.
In every
film. He kind of kept that going, but it worked. And then Wild Wild West, which he did instead of The Matrix. Could you imagine? He was going to be Neo.
I remember.
He said no because he was filming Wild Wild West.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't know if I would
been the
care
same.
for Will Smith as Neo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that he was up for it, and it only because they made that movie.
Super glad it wasn't.
Isn't
him.
it weird how the universe works?
I really am because I don't think I would have liked it. I don't know if I liked it because Will Smith again is Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Keanu Reeves. He plays Keanu Reeves for the most
Keanu
part, but
Reeves is Keanu Reeves. I mean, there's a big
Celebrity crush.
Especially 1999 Keanu
1999
Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
I do not get starstruck anymore, but if I met Keanu Reeves, I'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
I've met like some of like my favorite actors and like I was like able to...
I've only met a handful on
Oh
set.
my gosh, have you ever met someone and been disappointed? You know how they say don't meet your heroes?
Yes, Tommy Lee Jones.
You met Tommy Lee Jones?
Yes, for Ad Astra.
And he was
he's a grumpy old man.
Well, of course he is, but he's an old man.
He's a grumpy old man.
You guys will one day be grumpy old men.
I'm already there.
One day? Yeah.
One day? What are you talking about?
One day.
I already am.
No, you're not. You're not to the old grumpy old man yet.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I think everyone like important to me that I've met has managed to be like amazing, and I'm like,
super chill.
So there's not been one where you were like, I wish I didn't meet.
I have to ask, have you met Pedro Pascal?
I have.
That's who I want to play my part in my life.
Oh yeah.
That's who's gonna play.
Gonna play me.
Pedro right now reminds me of like that '90s like superstar where like they're just in everything.
Everything.
They just like how Will Smith was in the '90s.
Yeah. Harrison Ford was another one where you're
everything.
Like, Jesus Christ, you're like doing like 3 major franchises every
other
the new Harrison Ford movie every year.
Every other year.
You don't hear that ever.
No.
Now. You don't hear this next year like this. Maybe it's Timothy Chalamet. Maybe that.
I know he's the next one.
Yeah,
he was nice too. Timothy.
It's just a fun way. I don't know much about him, but I know saying his name is so much fun.
I did a commercial with him,
nice.
And that was like one of those ones. I always suspect that like it's a kind of an overdone stereotype of like people that start like child actors, for instance. Like you just imagine they might have maybe their social skills are not the same as yours.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Timothy was like so well adjusted and like so normal. I was like, I really thought that child actors and then
wouldn't be. You're like, why are you so regular?
Similarly, Ella Purnell on Fallout, the main actress on Fallout, like she was a child actress and just very normal.
They're like, this
she's
is just
not,
everyday for us.
She wasn't young on the show though, right? Or is she still young?
She's in her 20s, but like she had been acting since she was.
Oh, okay.
So like with the parent like making you do auditions and stuff. So
got it. Okay, so she was like forced into the scene. Okay.
I just picture everyone ends up like Shia LaBeouf because he was a child actor.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, or
a little bit
go
nutty.
Down the same road, or you just
or that's unfortunate. But you do.
You do the list of child actors.
No, you can kind of go down the list, and it's like 99%, and they're all.
I don't blame them.
No, not at all. It's not their fault.
It's an impossible path to navigate.
You're going from child to adult like immediately. You have no more childhood left over. You know what I mean? It's just you're working, and you're working all the freaking time.
You're working all the time as a child, and then you grow up, and they're like, sorry.
And then you
were so iconic as a child. I know what happened to Jodie Sweetin in Full House. It was like, we don't need you now. It's like, you're too old. You don't look like a kid. We fell in love with, same with Shirley Temple. We fell in love with you for who you were.
Yeah.
You grew up because that's how the world works, and now we hate you. It's a weird, you go in all your life as a child for this, and then it's like as soon as you hit a certain, we saw it with like Miley Cyrus. She kind of really turned into like the adulthood of it. It's happening right now with JoJo Siwa. She keeps saying she's not a child star anymore, so I don't know what her next project is, but she's teasing something. It's a weird transition though, right? Because anyone who ever saw you or knew you watched you. I think the advantage that like Will Smith had is even being on a sitcom is he was older, right? He was already more grown when he was doing Fresh Prince, so it was easy for him to go into adult roles. when you get the baby from freaking Teletubbies, you're gonna be like, I only know you as the
From
baby,
the baby from
Teletubbies.
Teletubbies.
I wish there was some handbook for like child actors to be like your best bet at trying to stay normal
Yeah,
throughout
like
your
how
career.
you. I think like Hilary Duff did a good job. She was a child, and then she's, I don't think she's had any huge major roles, but she's
She
still
hasn't.
acting.
The
Yeah.
Harry,
She's
the
still
Harry
hanging
Potter
out.
kids are the ones that I'm like, they
Yeah.
all managed to like not.
That's true.
You don't see them like
No.
The only
'Cause what's
problem
her,
though,
crazy.
what's the actress's name that played Hermione? She's
Emily
not. She doesn't,
Watson?
yeah, she
Emma
doesn't. Even,
Watson.
does she act still?
She did Beauty and the Beast right after, and she's still doing stuff.
No, like recently. Because that was like right after. That was Harry Potter's been a while now. You know what
Was
I
Beauty
mean?
and the Beast that long ago?
Huh?
I feel like it was not that long ago, but I
No?
I know.
Like,
Was it
It
re-
doesn't feel
But
that
I don't know.
long
My
ago, but it
my
was.
perception of time is lost now.
But it's I think you could probably say the same thing about like Daniel Radcliffe. Is that and maybe you're gifted this. You get to be very picky after you do a Harry Potter, and you're
Oh,
probably
sure,
never
I
have to work
suppose
again.
so,
You just
yeah.
go like, I'll do that.
Yeah, but
and
when
then-
you see Daniel Radcliffe, you think Harry Potter. Like it's hard.
Well, except for what is it, Guns Makimbo?
oh my god,
God, dude!
Ah.
Oh my lord, that was
Is
such
that
a
the one where he was like the army knife guy, or
no, where
No,
he got
that's
the
just like-
hands
yeah.
bolted to his hands. Yeah,
What?
yeah,
I,
two,
I always like to imagine his agents like, if you want to shake this Harry Potter image, you gotta get
You gotta
fucking
do this.
nuts.
Yeah.
He's like,
you gotta
"Alright."
we gotta do a version of Gamer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
with you.
You
Yeah,
said hands on
My
his
wife worked on
hands.
guns on his
Yeah.
hands.
Oh, guns on his hands. Oh, that sounds fun.
If you Google
They were-
like the most iconic,
They were
image
bolted.
comes up,
Every
then you-
finger was bolted to this gun, like drilled into the gun. It was not
Happens all the
fun.
time.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
it's a pretty normal thing for
What
actors.
movie is it?
It's called Guns Makimbo.
Oh, I've never heard of it. I'm
Yeah.
surprised. I've never heard of the gun movie.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre. It kind of reminds me of Scott Pilgrim, like having to
Oh.
fight.
You know, Scott Pilgrim to me is one of those movies. Everybody involved in it and it becoming a megastar.
Yeah,
Brie Larson became Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Chris Evans
That's
became
true.
Captain America.
Yeah.
Ari Plaza goes on to do Parks and Rec and everything
that's
else.
true. Yeah, everybody took off from that show, didn't they?
Kieran Culkin is in Succession.
Michael Cera is doing skincare commercials.
and he was in Barbie.
And he
He
was
was
in
in
Barbie.
Barbie.
Yeah,
That was like
yeah. That's like Ethan's favorite actor.
Brandon Routh became Superman. Like every single person on that.
Yeah,
became,
they all took off.
Yeah. And so another one, like Band of Brothers was the other one that I think of where it was like
Oh, you're right.
James McAvoy, Michael
You're
Fassbender,
right.
Tom
Oh
Hardy.
my lord! Everybody took off from
Yeah.
Band of Brothers.
So I always wonder if there's like it's something like lightning in a bottle thing where
I think it just
I
happened to be
bet.
because everybody had such a strong role. Maybe
Yeah.
they were just picked up for the great work they did in
Mhm.
the. But I mean, Scott Pilgrim wasn't like a huge hit to begin with, but it became a
Yeah.
cult classic type
Yeah.
of thing, right?
it's one of my favorite movies.
It's one of your favorite movies.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Ethan's favorite movie.
And I've never even
I've only
read,
seen it twice.
I haven't like read the comics or anything, but it's
Yeah,
just
I've never
so
read the
silly
comics.
and it's so fun.
It's so out there. The new cartoon is pretty fun.
Mary Elizabeth also became very famous.
Oh
after
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
I
Yeah.
have a sad story about Scott Pilgrim.
Oh
Oh no.
I went and I wanted to go see it, and I took all my friends with me, and there was probably about 5 of us. We sat in there for a good 30 seconds before they got up and walked out. And I was like in tears because I really wanted to watch it. But
Why did they
were-
leave?
They were just saying it was dumb. Like it was like
They're dumb.
They're
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Sorry.
They're dumb.
They're like,
Your
this
friends
is-
suck,
this
man.
is stupid and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I think they got their money back. I was like, I want to watch the movie. I still have never seen it because I think I'm tainted from.
Really?
Yeah, it,
Wow.
it broke
This is the
my
PTSD I
heart.
was talking about.
It's
Yeah.
the PTSD.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken because I really wanted to. I love Michael Cera,
That's worth watching.
and I wanted to see
That-
it.
You got to watch that movie at least once.
I saw the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, you got to watch that movie at least one time. I mean, the fight scenes were funny, epic. They're pretty. I don't know. It's just fun.
The vegan police.
The vegan police. Oh
Don't
yeah.
ruin it for me.
No, I won't ruin it for you. The cartoon is really fun too. There's a cartoon that came out of it just
I've
in
heard
the last
I've
6
heard of
months
the
or whatever it
cartoon.
was.
Yeah.
And almost everyone reprised their role, I think, too, right?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Oh,
'Cause that's
that
even
makes
more
it
rare.
Better, yeah.
Because even, especially when all of them are megastars now, you imagine they would all command like huge salaries or something. And it's like, that one strikes me as one of those love of the game things
Yeah.
where they go, of course we want to get back,
Of
get
course
the
they
band
do.
back together.
Right.
So that's,
And it was-
that's fun.
But
It was
I
really
think-
cool.
I think happens though too, like you were saying with the lightning in the bottle situation. If you have a cast and crew that just everything is so great, and they say, "Hey, we're gonna bring it back and like do it again," you're like, "Oh, maybe we can kind of like relive the magic again because of the everyone we had before."
It's
Just-
it's the ones that bring it back that are clearly cash grabs. That
Are
kill
you?
me.
I swear to God, if you start talking shit about Cobra Kai right now in front of our guests, I'm gonna be so pissed.
No,
Well,
Don't do this to Carrie.
I
Do
won't-
not do
I-
this
I
to
won't-
Carrie.
I won't talk shit about Cobra Kai.
I think the best example of that has got to be Guardians because James Gunn gets fired and
That's
like the
right.
cast holds out so hard that like eventually he rises from the ashes like a
Right.
phoenix and
Right.
comes back and does Guardians 3. I was like,
Yeah.
That's true.
how strong do you have to
forgot
feel
about
about a director to be like, we're not gonna
Do it again. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Pretty strong.
And that,
I mean, if the director did the show right, the movie right,
Mhm.
then you know you're gonna only want that director to do it again.
I was at Comic-Con the summer that Gunn got fired, and I was already at Legacy, and I was like, oh, I thought we were gonna work on that.
Oh
And
wow.
I was like, oh shit.
You were scared. You were like, uh-oh.
I was scared of being laid off because I was
That's
like,
what I mean.
that was like, you know, like the thankfully Legacy like usually will daisy chain enough like big enough projects to like keep me employed year round and stuff,
Forever,
and we
yeah.
fill in gaps with like commercials and stuff, which is I mean like not every shop can be lucky enough to do that, but like
No, not at all. You can
But-
see shops like Global that don't do that at all.
Yeah, well, we heard bad things about Global, so
Yeah, no,
we're
we
on
can.
Team Legacy.
We
obviously.
can go hours about freaking the things that were wrong with Global. And when we did work at Global is when I first learned that that was his dream place to work was at Legacy. Was he wanted
I literally moved to like
You were like, I can't wait.
he wanted to work. That was his goal in life
Wait,
was
you
to
moved
get.
from where? You're not. You're
I'm from the Bay Area, so it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
very far.
You
but
didn't
like,
go far.
I remember my friends like way later would be like, we didn't know what you were doing. I was like, what do you mean? It's like you didn't know anybody. You had like I had worked at like a very like a kind of tiny shop up in the Bay Area,
It
but,
still
like,
counts.
but like most people like go
Tiny
down
shop.
with,
He's like, I'm
yeah.
working with Adam Savage.
A guy that knows Adam well.
Yeah.
Adam came into Legacy not that a couple months ago. It was his first time ever there.
That's
and it was
cool.
cool to help show
That
him
is
around.
really cool because he did a lot
But-
of Disney stuff because he worked for ILM and
Oh,
everything
yeah.
else, right?
So like I moved down and like I didn't realize like how much of not a plan I had.
Yeah.
And then
Once you got here.
my friends later told me like after I got a Legacy, they're like, we really thought it wasn't gonna work out for you. I'm like, thanks guys. It was like you went out with no plan. You
I
just
love
went to
that,
LA. You're like, I want to
though.
work at
No.
Legacy.
Yeah, but you didn't have a plan, but you had a dream.
I
Like,
did,
if
and
you
like
knew where you wanted to go and you knew where you wanted to be, and
Yeah.
you did it.
Dude,
You're there.
When we were there during like slower times, I'm all, dude, take photos. So he was glassing the inside of this freaking helmet, right? Like fiberglassing the inside of this helmet. And I'm all, dude, take photos. So he sets up the whole photo thing and starts taking a bunch of photos so he could build his fucking resume so he had something to turn into Legacy eventually
yeah,
and get
duh.
a job there.
I had been emailing them once a month. The studio director there, Damon, I had emailed him once a month for about a little over a year, being like, "Can I have a job? Can I have a job? Can I have a job?" And then
Did you? Yeah, determination. Did you?
Oh, no,
That's
for sure.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So sometimes it works,
No, but-
sometimes it doesn't. But,
Yeah.
But you get that weird imposter syndrome, right? Because you're like, this person hates me. It's annoying. It's this and that. Or like, it seems like he saw it as determination. Like this
Well,
kid's not giving up.
I would never, like if you're applying for a job, I don't think I would ever think that this person hates me. I would just think that they're just not interested in me.
Well, I would. I
You know
would be
what I
like,
mean?
well, I fucked up bad.
I think that's like the irony to me. But so one of the gentlemen that worked at Global, guy Robbie, you might remember. So
I love Robbie. He was such
he
a
was
good,
very fun.
such
He was
a good
really
guy.
nice.
He did plays, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was an actor. Yeah.
He hooked me up. He's like, if you want some extra work, there's this company called CCE that they need weekend work. I worked one day at this place,
Mhm.
and I worked with this guy named Alan Holt who works at Legacy right now. Worked with him one day, and then on like month 13 of emailing Legacy, I'm like, oh, by the way, I just worked with this guy Alan Holt. I hear he used to work at Legacy. And then I got called within like a week, and I was like, it literally was just like once
what do we say?
once
It's
you
who you
heard a
know.
name,
It's
once-
always who you know.
It's who you
but
know.
and it makes sense because it is kind of
I know, but if he would have just emailed that one time and said, I know this dude, they'd been like, whatever. But they would be like, hey, remember that dude that's been emailing us for 13 months? He knows this guy. So maybe
Yeah.
it's more of a I don't know. Do you care how old you are to say your age?
I'm 35, and I've been at Legacy for about 7 years now. So I think it was.
You are, yeah.
You're the oldest, bro.
Shut up. Shut up.
88 for life.
I always knew he was younger than me by far.
well, no.
It's also more like as a not even a 30-year-old to like go into Legacy and you're put in front of these people that worked on movies when you were
Like
Right.
the
Jurassic-
movies that you grew up with. That
Yeah.
Well,
you
Jurassic
were like, "Ooh."
Jurassic Park was at 93, which means they
93.
probably were working on it from like for that scale of a build, probably 1990 to 93.
Yeah,
They're, like,
easily.
building on it.
Because I mean, you're talking about between just the animatronics and stuff around that they had for back then. Well, I mean, you're talking on a massive scale.
I found this out 2 weeks ago that for the T-Rex, Stan Winston had to raise the roof of his studio to fit the T-Rex in it.
Like
To
physically raise
he
the
had,
roof.
he had to build the roof taller. He had to like cut a section out and raise
I mean,
it.
you know what? When you see the possibility of what this could be, and you know it's going to be huge, and you're like people like Steven Spielberg and whatnot behind it, then you know it's going to be freaking
Yeah.
big. You're going to do that.
Yeah.
Yo, you raised the roof.
You raise
There's
the-
no question
you
about
raise
that.
you raise the
Just
roof,
waiting for it.
or you build a warehouse. One of the two. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing.
But so it's intimidating when you go into a shop and you're young and I didn't know how much I didn't know until I started working there.
Of course, yeah.
Because like even near like I worked at Global for a little over a year, but like
Right.
even at like the end of that, I was like, okay, I'm not like a total idiot. Like I kind of get like most of this stuff. Then you get to Legacy, I'm like, oh, I'm a dumbass.
I don't. I know
was-
nothing. I was not taught how to do anything at
And
Global
I
because
made
you
it, you
weren't.
know.
You weren't.
They just
no one
said,
taught
hey,
you
do
anything.
this.
Yeah.
They didn't give you any.
Well, we got lectures. We got
Oh.
plenty, we got
Well,
plenty
that
of
sounds great.
we got plenty of hour-long lectures.
Unconstructive criticism.
Yeah, unconstructive criticism. I mean, we came up with what was it? I think it was 291 reasons why the company is unprofitable.
That is so funny.
Yeah,
I
it's-
love
it's
that.
really good.
Where's this list? Let's go.
I have
through
it. I have it written. It's on my laptop.
Gotta write
It's
it.
actually. I think it's on my drive, but I do have it.
Work at Legacy, but also on your Instagram. What was that, like a clothing thing, or was it?
So, Starside Armory is something
Yes.
my brother, who is, this isn't like a diss on myself, but he is much more naturally talented than I am. And he was like, it was right around the time when like the Cyberpunk game got announced.
Yeah.
And like he'd always he is the opposite of me in the sense that like I like working, I need more structure than he does. Like I like working for a company. I don't want to be the guy that has to go out and like,
Get the work.
yeah.
You just wanna do the work.
Yeah.
I got you.
And so my brother was like, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to do it for myself. And so he kind of like, I helped in the beginning, like help like kind of just establish something, whether
Yeah.
it was just people that liked what we did. I had used a lot of like the Halo suits that I built as like some kind of like, oh, look at me kind of thing. And then my brother, when the Cyberpunk game was starting to come out,
Okay.
he was more interested in doing original stuff. Whereas I kind of liked, I think making replicas can be easier to be popular because you
Oh,
go,
easily.
look at
Because
this thing.
look at
you
this.
know.
Because
Look
I-
at this thing from Halo. Look at this thing from
want the
Star
sword
Wars.
from
Look at this
Halo,
thing
I
from
want a
yeah,
lightsaber
exactly.
Or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also understand where your brother's coming from
Mhm.
in the sense of like you want to be an original or create your own entity also.
He's more of that like true artist where he wants to create his own stuff. It's like the example I've always told people is that like everybody wants the Iron Man armor. No one wants your interpretation of an Iron Man armor. But
Right.
like he was like, I want my own Cyberpunk stuff. And so like I give 99% of the credit to him. It's like he just designs stuff and just makes it, and people want to buy it. He
Yeah.
goes to like conventions and stuff. He goes to Neotropolis out in the desert out
Well,
here.
it's a cool scene, and it reminds me a lot of like cosplay, or if you needed like props, like what you
Yeah.
do. It's
Specialty stuff. Yeah,
specialty, yeah.
but Carrie is right though. It's like it's hard to push that stuff other than those specific
Yeah.
scenarios because it's not. There's really hard to advertise it other than custom laser gun. You know what I mean? It's like how do you advertise something
I
like
want
that?
a custom laser gun. That sounds awesome.
But I think the point is like that it has to be really fucking amazing. Otherwise, like
It does.
If it's just a generic like, here's this gun I made and it just looks like
It looks
any other
like
gun.
every other
Like
laser gun.
who wants that? Because it's obscure. No one knows what it's from or anything.
It's got to look unique,
And so Cyberpunk is nice because it developed a scene.
right?
And so
I was
my
gonna
brother
say,
was-
like,
Talking about-
specifically in that niche of cyberpunk, you'll do it would be fantastic.
I mean,
'cause that's
the
what
game
they're-
the game had a lot of really cool.
The designs are amazing.
Oh yeah,
And like I even was like, I want to build. I built one of the I built a replica. So something that he was started building his own stuff. I did some replicas from the game. So I did one of the guns from it, and
Right.
like this whole like fold up like really cool. But I was like, this will be easier to sell because like it exists already.
right.
And he was
And
like,
it's-
I'm not interested.
It's easy to advertise.
And so like it was kind of nice because at the time it was like duality, where people could be like, oh, you have like, it's almost like a bait thing where like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
look
yeah.
at the thing they know, which is the gun
Reel
that I made from the
reel
game.
him in with a gun.
And then they go, look at all this other cool shit he makes. And like Cyberpunk is vast enough to like, it's not like Iron Man where there's like one arm. I mean, I won't say there's more than one, but like
yeah, all like
it's
Mark,
just-
Mark
it's-
20, I think.
yeah.
That's what it got to.
there's more to pull from. So like it's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
easier for him to be like, oh, I make these really cool like light up collars, or I make these cool like jacket add-ons, or these
Yeah.
like light up knives and stuff. There's a lot more to pull from there, a lot more you can
Right.
make originally and stuff. So like I'm always amazed that he just cranks out these things from his brain, which is really hard to do. Like if you ever sit down and try to make something, most of the time your brain automatically goes to what you know.
to what
Of
you
course,
already
well, of course
seen,
it
yeah.
does. Yeah, you gotta grab inspiration from somewhere.
And
right?
I'm not saying like my brother obviously like it's within the realm of cyberpunk, so like it
Sure.
reflects that look and stuff. But it's
Sure.
so super impressive to me that he just generates this stuff out of nothing.
That's cool.
It looks very well made because it is. Like he's like I said, he is. I think I'm talented, but I think he's much more naturally talented than I am.
That's cool.
He always goes like, "Man, you're doing the big studio stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, but you're like more of the true artist." Like, It is like,
Well, I
and,
mean,
and not
yes
again,
and
not
no.
disparaging against myself,
Yeah.
but like if you think about all the projects I do at Legacy, yes,
Yeah.
maybe I was in charge of the Fallout show,
Yeah.
but I had an army of like 20 people working with me, and
Yeah,
he does
I
it
mean,
all
It
himself.
always takes an army, right? When you're talking about something
That is,
something they need yesterday, you know what I mean? And that's how the movie industry works, right?
and
They want it 2 weeks ago
it always makes sense to me now whenever I see like a price tag for anything that ever comes
because
out.
they
You're
want
like,
it.
I get it.
Because they
oh.
want it. You can pick 3, right? You can have something quality, and you can have something fast, or you can have something cheap.
Yep.
Pick 2.
Sometimes one.
Sometimes 1. Yeah.
Quality and fast.
Quality and fast does not equal cheap. It's going to
I was
be
gonna say,
super
but then that's when
expensive,
your
and that's when
price
you're
tag
like,
goes up.
why are the spacesuits $75,000 a piece? Because you want them in 2 weeks, man.
What? Did you say $75,000?
Yeah, I
Holy
think 2 of them that we
moly.
made were $150 a piece.
$1,000?
Yeah.
Can I have one and sell it so I can buy a house?
No.
Oh my god!
No,
That's
so-
crazy.
So that's why that specific prop shop rented out most of their costumes because it was too expensive.
when they
to
rented
buy.
them. So when you're creating, even like for Legacy, do the companies come to you and say, "Hey, we need these things. Can you produce them?" Or is it kind of like give you a general idea, or do they say, "Watch, this is," or like you did Fallout? So is it more of like did they want it to be exactly like how the game was, or is it kind of more up to an artist's interpretation? I just don't know anything about like this part of the industry, so it's so interesting to me to think like how it goes from movie studio talking to you creating the actual stuff. Like is it?
That is a good question. The Fallout one was a little easier because they did essentially a 1-for-1 remake.
They said take this and create these. Like take
And
the
it's
Fallout.
also not Disney.
1 foot.
I didn't say Disney.
No, because everything else is Disney. does that. It's
so
not
we
Disney.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Because that's the thing too. Is like, can it not be too? I don't know. Let's answer the first question.
So for the Fallout suit was a little bit easier in terms of it goes faster if you don't have to have concept artists generate a bunch of stuff and go, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this?
Okay.
Then
So it's more
this
like
one-
this is what it is.
So yeah, this one they came to us and they go, this is what we want. We know that 8 feet tall is not reasonable, so we're happy to go down to like 7 feet tall. And then they go through the beats. They go, it needs to do this, this, and this. Is that
Okay.
possible? So this isn't. I don't think this is pulling back the curtain, but we in the game, the suit opens up in the back like an Iron Man armor, and the guy steps in.
Right.
Okay.
And our first instinct was to say that doesn't really work for the wearable one. It doesn't make sense to try to incorporate all those mechanics. It'll make it heavy. It'll make it cumbersome.
It's like too much. For
And so
not
we go. We
enough
got to
for
build 2 separate ones. We got to build one that is stationary that can open up. You walk
Yeah.
into, and then it closes, and then you cut to the guy in the
The
suit.
A suit and the B suit, right?
Yeah. So this is part of the like they go through the script a little bit to tell you what it needs to do,
Yeah.
and then we have all sorts of discussions like, do you want someone to go in it? So the suit's 7 feet tall. Do you want to try to find somebody that's close to 7 feet tall? That way, his hands are his hands, his feet are his feet. You go from there, but it's hard to find someone that tall. Or do you want to go with someone who is find a way to make it work for the actor who's supposed to play it? So the guy is about 5'10". You go, do you want to try to make the suit work on that guy? Or do you split the difference and put about a 6'5" stunt performer in it? We'll have finger extensions to make his hands work.
Like stilts
He's on 6-inch stilts.
Wow.
And then eventually it came down to like, well, 6'5" is much easier to find than like 6'10". So so we went the 6'5" route, and that's when we ended up getting Adam. But like as far as the design goes, then we go, okay, we kind of lay a 6'5" person's body over the power armor, and we go, where does the knees need to bend? Where do the elbows need to bend? And so something that like came up really early, it was like, how much liberty do we have to change this thing? And they're like, we really wanted to. And as artists, like we know a few inches, like something we talked about is the fact that this giant massive chest on his front is so wide and out here that he'll never be able to get his hands together. And so we go, do we bring the chest in a little bit and give him a better shot at doing that? And then we tried it digitally, and it just immediately threw the look off. And we're like, okay, we gotta live with.
Yeah, like that's
We can't do it.
Yeah.
We gotta keep the look. And so we kept the look. And then another element that came out in the trailer, so I feel okay talking about it, is that something that's never done in the game is the visor pops up,
Yeah.
just like Iron Man and stuff like that. It's he's got to be able to deliver dialogue, or you want to see the actor's face from time to time.
Yeah,
So
make appearances.
Yeah.
Flip up. It's so interesting though. Like again, like you say, what's your title? Like to me, that seems like engineer, because they say here's a picture, here's a concept, create it right out of
yeah. So
thin air almost. Well, you do what? 3D printers.
I do. So I did a bit of 3D modeling on this job where we did 3D print almost the entire thing, and
That's
we
so
molded it and
fun.
stuff.
Like,
We
I feel like
have-
that's so cool.
To have nowadays, like making props and or even little goose over there? Was he like whittled or was he printed?
He's
printed.
3D printed.
He's printed, right?
Yeah, it's 3D
So
printed.
I had an engineering background, and then I had experience in a lot of other departments, which I think is why they choose project leads. Is that it's not so much that you do it all yourself; it's that you can talk the language to each department. So
And tell them exactly what you need. Like, hey, I need this from you.
So like I have all the hard shells now. I go to the soft goods department. Alicia, who kind of did all the pattern stuff for like he's got like soft gasket stuff in between everything. So I go, here's all the hard shells.
Yeah, all the in between. And then that's what you said your wife does, right? Because she does more of the interior or the sewing and the fabric. And do you guys both work at Legacy?
We do.
Did you meet there?
We did.
Oh, that's so cute.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you guys have a big what do you call it? Soft goods department there?
I'm not sure. Big is, I guess, a relative term, but we have about 6 fabricators. Okay, so maybe more than that actually. A couple. We have 3 downstairs, 6 up. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's pretty good size.
It's a big size, yeah. But when you travel, are you guys always on the same project, or you get separate projects and then you have to like go to different places?
Fallout, we got to do a little bit together. A lot of the times, it is dictated by. It is such like a huge scheduling mess to me to like. For a company to do multiple shows and to have the people you need in the shop and send the people you need out.
Right.
And so like it becomes very hard to like manage that. And so the first few months I was out there without my wife, and then on the stints in like Utah, a couple times in New York, it worked out where she wasn't needed in the shop as much, and so she went out there and helped. And so well, she worked on the suit a bit, so like it makes sense. The general rule of thumb is like if you work on it, you built it, you go with it because you're the best suited to fix it. So like
you're the technician to repair
it.
Did
you go anywhere when you guys were at the other one?
It's just LA, really. LA and out here in the desert.
I love the desert.
That's about it. Freaking at just in Agua Dulce.
Yeah,
they shot some of the scenes out there. Were shot out there in some giant swimming pool that was in the desert because there was an underwater scene.
In the desert?
Should have filmed Fallout there. Huh? Could have filmed Fallout there.
Just could have filmed Fallout there.
It could have.
They really could have.
Or like Vegas, right? Or that was the third one. Or
Fallout Vegas
what does this Fallout go off of? Is it all of the story together? I only played Fallout Vegas.
So something that I think the directors mentioned is that it kind of is in the realm of Fallout 4. Yeah.
4, okay.
Yeah. So it fits that bill a little bit more. But they've also, I mean, going back to it, like it's kind of their own story, but like kind of in this essence.
But where the vault is located and all that stuff, it all seems like Fallout 4 more than anything else. Yeah.
Well, now I know that it wasn't all filmed out here, so I feel cool.
Almost nothing is ever filmed in one location
except
anymore.
Star Wars.
Except Star Wars. Yeah.
Those the Star Wars guys, like, and I've been included every now and again. It's nice because you get to go home at night.
That's cool.
Whereas, like, Guardians was in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta for a while.
They use a lot of that background, right? The
volume.
The volume. Oh,
the volume is super disorienting, and I almost. So the first time that I worked on it, I was acting in it, which is terrifying because I was doing the Obi-Wan show.
Oh, and everything keeps moving with you.
And so the camera, the for those who don't know, it's a big digital screen. Like instead of a big green screen, you're seeing what you would see.
It's like like a 200-foot long television basically. That's really low mat, and it's like a big green screen, but it's not green screen because it's projected directly on the thing, not from a projector.
Yeah, but if it's a projection, wouldn't there be a reflection onto the person standing in front of it?
No.
So it's
just
so confused.
The way it's laid out.
That's actually good though,
right?
For like the Mandalorian, for instance, his helmet is so shiny.
Yeah.
Being able to in person have those reflections on you does wonders for the VFX crew who doesn't have to worry about adding that reflection.
What he's saying is like you get reflections from the mountains and stuff directly onto the helmet, so you'll see the actual background reflected on stuff. It doesn't have to be superimposed later on.
I guess I'm confused because we said green screen, but
they're actual not. Screens.
They're
actual
like
TV screens.
Imagine a giant TV behind you playing the scene.
Is playing the background scene.
Yes, correct. I
have caught up.
Yep, exactly. And it's massive. It's huge. I think there's a few sizes of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the problem, not necessarily the problem, but like in order to make it look right.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of math going on, but the whole thing moves with the camera. Meaning, like, if the camera shifts over, then like the background has to distort and move to make it look right.
Yeah.
And so the first time I was doing this was just a very simple scene. I was playing my bounty hunter. I'm eating at the table. I get a call to go find Obi-Wan. I get up and I walk out. but the camera follows me and then it moves, and so without having been there, just not being experienced enough, I just start moving with the camera and I walk right into a trash can.
Carry.
Back to one, and so it's just
reset.
So it's a little disorienting, funny. Like especially when you have very limited visibility. Like
for sure,
my natural instinct was to fall over. My background was going.
Is it like, do you get excited though when they do pull you in to do that, or are you more of like, I'm a behind the scenes guy rather than actor, or is it kind of exciting?
It's very fun to be on the screen, like either doing puppeteering or being a suit performer. It's kind of the closest you can get to like really like contributing acting. To it, because there's one thing to build something and then like watch it perform. Like the Fallout suit is like really cool to make, dress, and then go watch it do its thing and stuff. But it is also inherently, at least to me, a little bit more fun to actually do it yourself.
I feel like that would be the case too, or like you're like, hey, that's me. Like, no, it's not. Like, it's my elbow.
I mean, you never see my face in any of these things, so it's hard to ever convince people that it's actually me.
Until you see his name in credits, and you're like, oh look, there's his name.
I know, but it's still exciting to see yourself on it. I don't know. My dad was in Apollo 13, and he's talked about it every single day of my life that I've ever seen him. So just an extra.
Still really cool though, right?
But I mean, but it never go like that's the forever story.
Oh, for sure.
But I mean, like, and I'm not saying working on the special effects is any like less, but it's cool when like I was in it, or so even these little pop-ins when they put you in there, it's like, well, I'm in it. Not only did I work on it, but like I acted in it. So I'm.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Yes.
So this gentleman that works at Legacy, Mike Manzel, he's one of the main Grogu puppeteers.
Okay.
And him and I went out to Budapest for 6 weeks, and we were filming a movie, and I maybe let it slip that he was the Grogu puppeteer. The next day we go into our workspace, and there was a bag of Grogu toys with a sign in like really broken English, it's like, please sign for casting crew. There were some like really big name actors. People were like pushing past them to get to Mike to be like, I heard you were Grogu.
Are you Grogu?
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That's really
we saw like
cool.
I mean, and I remember talking to, it wasn't Mike, but like, so there's a gentleman there named Pete Clark who designed a lot of the mechanics for Grogu. And one day I was like, is it weird that you can't go like 10 feet without seeing a bumper sticker, a T-shirt, a plushie? I was like, you've like, I remember when it was being made at Legacy, I'm like, this is gonna be. I mean, just like a lot of Star Wars things.
Did you feel it, or did you know it was gonna take off?
Oh, I mean, anything cute is like really easy.
It's gonna take
really
off,
cute.
For sure. Absolutely.
Because you look at like you ever hear like stories like Boba Fett, like he's really cool in this ominous character, but you don't know it's gonna be popular. Grogu, we're like, this is gonna be popular.
You just knew.
I know you worked on the book of Boba Fett, but what's your are you allowed to say what your honest opinion is of that show?
I think so, because like I didn't.
You didn't write it.
Yeah, it's like I thought it was a weird way to take the character who's for someone who is always just portrayed as this like Billy badass. It's kind of weird to make him this like really weird, merciful like I want to just be like this good leader of this shitty sand palace
of like five citizens in the entire city.
I just didn't buy it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of times where you go so far off what a character like. I'm not a writer, but like from what I perceive as the character of Boba Fett, it's really weird. It's really weird that he just became this like very like humble.
I agree.
Merciful.
But then you look at and then you just look at how it's filmed compared to the Mandalorian, because they were pretty much simultaneous, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, and then Mandalorian is done pretty damn well, and then you look at Andor, and that's done really freaking well. Mm-hmm. And then you look at Boba Fett, and you're like, what happened? What happened here?
There is a little bit of unfortunate timing where like there is some supreme Tatooine fatigue going on. Where I'm just like, I'm fucking tired of the desert. Like, can we go anywhere else?
Can we go tropical?
I just feel like they dumped so many shows all at once that they could have separated them by a little bit more time, and they would have done better.
But do you think that what happened? Is it they kind of super pushed them through?
Oh, it's Disney. Of course they did.
And from my outside looking in, and not even just like from knowing these people, but like what I understand happens is Disney Plus comes out, Mandalorian season 1 comes out, and then there's just a huge gap.
And it was a big hit, though.
It was a big hit, but it wasn't daisy chained enough to keep people, like their big model is retention.
Yeah.
And so if you have nothing else,
to keep people stuck with Disney Plus is what you're saying. Yeah, exactly.
And so then they overcorrect. They do the exact opposite, where like now you're halfway through Obi-Wan and they're already promoting the next TV show, being like, don't go anywhere. I know the show's almost done, but please don't go anywhere. And I'm like, dude, you don't like.
It's almost too much, right?
It is, because it was very annoying to me to see commercials for the next Star Wars show in the middle of the Star Wars show that is still airing.
Yeah, that's pretty frustrating, because that's not how Star Wars ever was. Like when you even for the films,
Mhm.
like you'd watch a film and you knew you would have to wait for a few years before you even got an inkling of what the next one was going to be.
What the next thing? Would you watch the trailer for it?
Star Wars, yeah. Star Wars, yeah. I watched a trailer for Star Wars. That's not a big deal. I think the only one I watched very little trailer of was Solo, because I didn't care for the actor, but I did like the film. I thought it was entertaining in itself.
I think it's entertaining.
As a standalone film, I think it was very entertaining. I don't think it was a Star Wars film altogether, but it was entertaining.
I think like my ultimate take from a lot of these things is some of these beloved characters, like, and it's oversaid, but like sometimes you just gotta leave them alone. Like,
Leave them alone.
It's got to be so tempting to go for the cash grab of like this character.
I think that's what it was in the sense of why so many were at the same time, because it was not only did Disney Plus just come out and they had Star Wars, but it was such a like I feel like for a while there you couldn't go 2 steps without something Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Like it was
everything
big.
Star
Like,
Wars. Star Wars
was
up. You're getting
everything.
Star Wars up the wazoo. Like,
it was
daily.
the wazooey, like it was all over the place. But
Yeah.
then maybe they leaned so much into it, like that's maybe where some of the characters they were like, oh, we'll take this one and we'll take this one, and they're
We'll
kind
take
of like
all of them and just make a show out of all of them.
yeah,
Yes,
and
that's what they
so
did.
the authenticity kind of falls off there because it's like you said more cash grabby than it is
That's what it feels
for
like.
a fan.
Excited.
Let's delve a little bit more because I it's really interesting to me, or like I like hearing all these like almost like you said kind of pull the curtain back but not too much, but we don't.
And we're not trying to get Cary in trouble here.
No, but we don't even need to do it in the sense of like just like Fallout, which isn't out yet. But like you said, you came out here for a dream, right? You said I want to work for special effects. Or is that what like the intent was, or was the intent something else and it shifted into that?
It was really like a basic dream because I went to Comic-Con and I saw the Iron Man suit and I was like, I want to do something like that.
So you went in knowing you wanted to do props. You didn't come out to be an actor and then shift into that.
No, I came to work at Legacy.
That's
and
so cool.
at the time, I didn't realize like what the scope of what they did was. I just knew that they had worked on a lot of cool.
And you were like,
the other one was Pacific Rim, where I was like, I knew they did all those suits.
You,
and I was,
you didn't want
my God, I
you
just
didn't think
watched
like
that.
on a more global scale and say like Weta.
I had thought Weta is crazy because like they're probably the biggest.
They are the biggest.
And they have to be.
Yeah.
But there's something also, not to say uninteresting, but there's something a little bit more.
Mundane.
You just feel like yeah. When you feel like you're one out of 1,000 people there, like maybe it's not as special.
Yeah, because it's just a big company.
And I was kind of saying that too, like when I said about
I've never
Fallout.
heard it. It's called Weta.
Weta.
Weta?
The Lord of the Rings guys.
Lord of the Rings guys.
Okay.
They built the first like plastic chainmail and stuff like that.
Oh,
They-
okay.
Do they specialize in that type of like the more
I don't-
fantastical?
Fantasy.
They do some
They
space
do
stuff as well. They
everything.
do everything, don't they?
It's really,
But they're not
ge-
here.
well,
They're out of state. They're out of country.
They're New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's all very geographically important. Like we don't typically. It's very rare that we film across the globe
Because they cover all that stuff.
logistically. It's
It's
tougher.
expensive
And so like we don't do Star Wars movies, for instance, because it's all filmed in England.
yeah.
And
And
there's
I
a big
think like
studio out
Greenland and Ireland and
Yeah. And so that was going to be filmed here, which is I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about
We
that.
can cut it if we
yeah.
have to.
Yeah. If you want me to cut anything, just tell me.
Probably
I
don't
still want to
mention
that. Don't mention
know.
that.
We'll cut
Yeah.
that
Well,
one.
we're involved in that.
So
and-
like movie that you're working on
Mhm.
is going to be filmed here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
they're
that
gonna be
one.
able to leave it here. You're not gonna. You get to go home at night, pretty much.
Exactly.
Right?
So
Okay.
like that's I mean, and so it is. It's usually just our connection to whoever's involved that would dictate if we do go. Like the thing I did in Budapest was just like we had a connection with this person and stuff, and they like there could be times where they go, we want the Legacy guys and stuff. If like we worked with Jon Favreau, I say we, I mean
The
like, my
company
bosses.
worked with Jon Favreau, right?
Yeah, they worked with him like Zathura and Iron Man, obviously.
Yeah.
And,
But he's Mando though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how we.
Yeah.
I believe, if as I'm understanding correctly, that's
Yeah.
kind of how we got the Mandalorian job.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that like it's a relationship? And
Oh, because they worked with him on the other projects.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's
that makes sense.
it's pretty typical that either directors or production companies.
They
will be
usually
like-
bring in who they like, who they know. Right?
Yeah, and so it's and sometimes it's just like it's like a risk management thing. It's like these guys do good work.
Yeah.
These guys are getting a bonus. So
Is Legacy inherently expensive or pretty on point as far as market?
I would imagine. I don't see numbers very often, but I would imagine they're one of the more expensive ones.
Yeah,
whether
because
it's
you guys are really good at
But
what you do.
Yeah.
but getting Disney contracts, it's like it's not like they have. Their
Well,
own
it's like
budget.
it's like hiring
money.
the local visual effects shop versus hiring ILM, right? So,
No, but that's what I'm saying though. It's like if I'm making a Marvel movie, it's like I'm gonna call it Legacy, and if
I'm
they
gonna
know
call
what
the
they're
best.
doing, I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
the best of the best. I don't want Joe Schmo. I'm not saying Joe Schmo can't do it. I'm
Mhm.
just saying like if I'm spending this money, I want the good stuff.
So something that would typically happen too is that there will be multiple vendors. So like Fallout, like we did the power armor, but a lot of other studios did a lot of other aspects for
so
the
they'll
show.
outsource different things to do. You don't take all of it.
No,
you guys do set deck too,
This
or
is
no?
interesting.
No, this becomes an interesting like union discrepancy.
Really?
And so something like that, for instance, so the way it was explained to me, and I hope I'm not getting into trouble, but like for instance, the Fallout suit, I had to kind of answer to my job, meaning they were like, why aren't the costuming people dealing with this? This is a union. This is a costume.
Yeah, but it's a
like,
specialty. But it's a specialty costume. A costume shop cannot make that power armor. Let's be honest.
And that's where the line is drawn. And even as I understand, the costume designer was like, we don't want anything to do with that.
I was gonna say they probably don't want
you can go back to freaking Global. Global is not freaking what do you call it? A union shop, but they built all these things for the union because they're specialty items that no one else is going to build, right?
And so yes, like a lot, like, and this goes like beyond the scope of what I know usually, but like a lot of like, for instance, I if I understand correctly, we built the Mandalorian suit, but for whatever multitude of reasons, the costuming union dresses Pedro or
that makes
Brandon,
sense
Brandon
though. I get it.
And so, but like if we manage it to the degree of if it breaks and we fix it.
You fix it,
but
right?
Then you're handing it over to costume, so then they can dress person in it. But if something breaks, then they need to call you because they don't know how to fix it.
I mean, a piece of armor breaks. Costuming is not going to look at it and go, "What do we do this?"
Blue. Just kidding.
I mean, seriously speaking, they're not. They can't even reproduce the part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, they probably could, but it's going to be at a greater expense because they already have the molds and everything else.
The paints and everything.
Exactly.
Oh, the paint color.
Yeah, everything is on. They've already got that perfected. So to send that out to somebody else and say, "Let so and so costuming fix this,"
I love.
They're not going to be able to.
I want to do this. I want to be in props. I like literally never in my whole life would have thought like.
Yeah.
You don't think about this stuff, like, or when you're watching a movie or whatever, you think about it when you're in the backlot tour of Universal, and you're like, oh, that's fun. But really, when it comes down to it, and it's like making these intense things, it's like, yeah, that has to be made. Like that's
everything. It's a one-off item most of the time. Yeah. And sometimes they'll use like a household good and convert it into something. Like you see that a lot in like older films, like all the Star Wars movies, right? The lightsaber was something specific. You know, everything.
What was it?
The ice cream maker.
Yeah. Everything was like very specific household good that they converted into a thing that looks like this thing that you now see.
Yeah,
it's back before printing, 3D printing.
But now it's like with like printing or is there like any machining in it, or it's just like printed?
I do a lot of machining. So like on the Fallout suit, especially, like there are mechanical hands, meaning this guy puts his hand inside of the Fallout suit's hand is like out here, for instance. The actor's hand goes into about here, and he reaches for these little mechanical linkages that he pulls, and it makes.
He individually pulls on.
And you're talking about a very custom piece, right? They've handmade every single piece to make it work and function. So yeah, it's
so
really
we do have a CNC machine.
What's the learning curve of? Is it hard?
It was so that was like something that I end up doing panels at Comic-Con and stuff a lot.
Yeah,
and people ask.
I want to go. I want to go to a Comic-Con now. I need
fun.
to get into this world.
Fun.
I want to go full cosplay though. Like,
so, like the most common question people ask me is, how do you get into this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And like the honest answer usually is that there's not really specific schooling for it.
You email them every single day for 3 months. What do you
mean?
There
is one school in LA that you can go to, and they quote unquote they will help you get into the union, but I find that the union is unnecessary. So
well, the most common path I see people do is a cinema like makeup school, for instance. They do like prosthetic school stuff like that, and that can usually be a segue into like the effects shops and stuff. But I was in mechanical engineering college, and they in Legacy had a need for people that could do machining and stuff. So like
I just never really
I didn't know that though.
But I never really put like my fiance does machining or like, but I guess it's more for like aerospace and things, or he used to work on rockets and stuff. But then you think about it, you're like, you're technically making the same thing.
You're just taking a design and you're making it.
But you're but I never even like it's because, like, oh, you could instead of you could make it for a prop. Like, I don't know. I think it's cooler. Well, I mean, like rockets are cool, but a fake rocket's even cooler.
Right, like a machine shop will usually take plans from a customer, and they'll program them into the CNC machine. The CNC machine will do the work, right? Where at a prop shop, I would assume. I don't know if you guys have designers and whatnot, or do you guys go do the whole gamut?
We do everything usually.
That's what I would think. So you're designing it, you're programming it, and you're coming out with the end result. So I think that's more of a the artistic aspect of things
But
comes
that's what
into play.
I guess because I'm thinking of it in the sense of like, obviously when they're doing it for rockets, it's like so particular and like, you know, everything's got to be perfect. But it's like when you're doing it for like a prop, it's like you still want it to be perfect, but it's a little bit less of like, it's more like, oh, we're not shooting this into space. Like, but you're I don't know. To me, I feel like it would be less of a little bit more fun in there, I guess.
Well, because
like,
I mean, your tolerances are going to be a lot less, right?
Wait, that's what I'm saying. Like, your tolerance instead of being like a 1,000, it's like, you kind of have a little bit of leverage.
She's got the machine speed.
She does have the machine.
I hear
speed.
it
a couple
all.
thou offs.
Yeah.
I hear it all day, every day.
It may not be necessary for a prop that's going to be used like just for on set.
Let me do it.
I know, but I'm just like I guess I'm thinking of it as like in the sense of like for his job, like
unless you're Chris, then it's got to be on point and to the 1/10,000.
Who is Chris?
Chris is the owner of Global.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, I don't know.
You are right though. Like there is something inherently a little bit less stressful about not sending things to space or saving lives.
Right? Like it's just a little bit more like working in restaurant, you're like, yeah, it's stressful, but like it's food. Mm-hmm. Working in a hospital, you're like, people could die. Like there's just different levels of
yes.
But it feels, I don't know, fun. I'm jealous of your job. I feel like you have a really cool job, and like you said, even at Comic-Con and stuff, when people are asking you like, how did you get into that career? Mm-hmm. Because like me, I'm like, this is something I've never even thought about. So growing up, I wouldn't even think like, oh, that's something I'd want to do, right? Because it wasn't on the forefront. You obviously were inspired by like Iron Man 2 and was like, oh yeah, that's it. Like, obviously that had to be made in some sense, but it's cool that like you saw that, said, I want to do it. And then you fucking did it. You know what I mean? Like
it's cool, but it was so like harebrained to like just be like, oh, I want to do that. It seemed like unthought out.
Like, but the fact that like
it probably was, but the end result was positive in your case, where it may not necessarily be positive in everyone else's case.
But you tried. You didn't.
We'll add some luck to that.
No, fuck luck, because you left your house. If he never left, if he never moved down here and just said it, you know what I'm saying? He had to do that leap.
That's the ambition. He was a kid. He was a kid at the time, right?
But a kid willing to go for what he wanted.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It wasn't.
But not every kid knows what they want at that age. You're talking about what, 13 years ago?
It did take a while for me.
So you're 22 years old and you're like, I'm gonna bail. See you later.
And like at the time too, like when I
had a baby at 22. Like it's just like, so to think that like you could, I don't know. I'm fascinated by your story. I think it's really cool that you saw something, you said I'm doing it, and then you fucking did it. Like,
I'm very lucky it worked out, because I also didn't, like I said, I didn't know exactly what.
And then you met your wife. Like now your life is based on that first thing, right? Like you guys are always gonna have this workplace, and even if it's not a forever thing, like not saying your relationship, I'm saying your job.
What did she tell you?
I'm saying like you two probably, or you become this power couple and take it over. It's just part of your story, right? Like it's. You wanted it, you went there, and then because you went there, now you met your wife, you got to travel to all these places, you get to be an actor randomly because they need somebody. Like, it's kind of neat.
That's what's nice, because I never aspired to be a super performer or puppeteer, and like it kind of like fell into my lap.
And it fell right there.
And then I found out like I really enjoy it, and I was like, this is a nice like added bonus to me. And so like, and it's also inherently like I used to get like super, when I first started, I was like bragging about it, because like why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't you?
And then I realized like how annoying I was, and I was like, I gotta stop talking about this. And then it became like it was much more personally satisfying for me. Fallout was one where I didn't like go and be like, I built the power armor. Like to me, it was just like personally gratifying to like.
Which I think that's part of.
I don't know, man. I know the guy who built the power armor.
I know, right? You might not brag, but we're gonna brag all day.
We're gonna brag about you.
I'm gonna go home and be like, "You're not gonna guess who I met tonight." And you know what he did?
It's like I almost brag about the people I work with more. Like my boss was one of the raptors in Jurassic Park. Like that's so cool.
That's pretty cool.
There's pictures of him in like half the raptor and
in the
stuff.
little
It's very cool. Like those guys were part of every major franchise. Predator, Alien, Jurassic Park, Terminator, like and Avatar, and
so they are a part of the culture.
We don't talk about Avatar.
She's never seen it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I have. It's my my least favorite movie of all time. I'm sorry.
Pocahontas in space.
It's Pocahontas.
It's Ferngully, but it's exactly that.
That is also true. It's very cool to be around those people that like basically built my childhood. Because when I was making the list, when I thought about it, I was like, these are all the things that really guided what I was interested in. I drew dinosaurs as a kid. I loved Terminator.
Oh, he's a great artist too, by the way. Like he would like doodle on the desks at work because they're covered in paper.
Yeah.
So he would just draw on the desk.
Oh yeah, how do you not draw on the desk covered in paper?
Yeah, exactly.
We draw like a flower. He's got like a whole portrait.
He did. Yeah, he started like this like collage of shit at one point at his desk. It was pretty awesome.
I love it. I love the fact that I don't know. You're probably I don't know if you're sick of talking about you, but like I'm stoked on it. I think what you do and like I think the whole story about how it came about in the first place is fantastic, but I do need to know what your favorite cartoon is. This is very important.
Favorite cartoon.
It's just your favorite animation.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind was Simpsons because I grew up with it for so long. Okay.
We're good.
Yeah.
I would say one last thing is like if you take anything away from like what my career has been is that like what I tell people at panels is like I really just hope people try things.
Yeah.
Because like I just tried it and obviously it's not always going to work, but like I do feel lucky that I tried something and it worked out. And when I'm finding out at conventions that people go, I don't know where to start, so I don't want to try.
And that's what happens with a million things. That's what happens with podcasts. Like I have like 5 friends that are like, I want to start a podcast because they know we do the podcast, right? I want to start a podcast. I'm like, cool. They're like, okay, can you help me buy gear? I'm like, you have a phone, don't you?
Guess who showed up?
Yeah.
That's how we became
no, seriously,
I want to put on that 100-pound suit.
Do you?
How tall are you?
5'7". Am I too small?
I think so. Well, you wouldn't be able to work the suit very well.
I couldn't work it. Yeah. I just want to see it.
We put someone in that was 5'7", but she wasn't able to
pull it off.
Operate it. We'll say.
Yeah.
Or her knees were like where the thighs were. Like it just wouldn't.
Wow.
Doesn't really work.
Like
you're not tall. Okay, we need to put some extra stilts in there so you can step on some blocks.
The production was like when we first did it. First put the suit on Adam, the guy in the suit.
Yeah.
Like, what if we want to put someone that's 5'10"? I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, we just built this that's 7 inches of difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Jeez.
I don't blame them for not knowing what they're asking for, but it is funny.
But they knew what they were asking for when they were building the damn thing. But production is a different story.
It's convenient. I mean, I don't blame them. I accept the fact that on the day they have to try. They have to try an ask.
For sure. Yeah.
They have 6,000 things they have to nail.
For sure.
All this money.
But why did they want to put somebody who was 5'7" in there? They didn't have the 6'5" guy there? Adam wasn't there?
No, he was there, but it was a scene where the guy had to be, or the person had to be shown, and like they're wondering, can we dress him?
Oh, you're trying to put the actual actor in there.
Yeah, so we found out that we could do like the upper half, and then
like just cut out the legs. Like it's just not gonna work.
I mean, yeah, 7 inches. You're like
movie magic.
You got the shot. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
We gotta
needs to know.
We gotta put some blocks of wood at the bottom of this thing, and then maybe he can stand up and be tall enough. I don't know.
When the show comes out, I'll tell you a funny story about that.
Okay, yeah.
I can't wait.
I'm excited.
And I love production is just so cool. Like even you said like you've been to podcasts or whatever. It's like you can like this is nothing compared to what you do, but like a little bit of production or like kind of behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. But being there and like really pulling back the curtain and seeing how it goes or how everything, it's magical.
It's mind blowing like how much like things like this takes.
Yeah.
Like if you at the core of it, people maybe think it's a podcast. You just need any kind of camera and maybe a microphone. Then if you ever turn it around and you go, oh, you need all that shit too, and more like an army of people.
You need a few people. Yeah, Des, who is our producer now, is a friend of hers who's doing it just for fun, obviously.
Game, yeah.
And she's actually the last 2 shows she's been on, and they went really, really smoothly. I'm really excited that she joined the team.
We were slowly building a free production crew. Cary, if you want to work for free.
Do you guys need some props made or Grogu to come up from here? I don't think I can say what one we just did.
No, I'm good.
But I think that one we crewed up a little bit for. But Guardians was insane because it was just we had an army of people just running prosthetics every day. If people don't know this, prosthetics like Nebula, those are one-time use.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like,
well, I don't know that way.
Yeah, you put it on, you take it off, you throw it away.
What?
If you ever like watch like a breakdown, I think your head is something like 4 or 5 different prosthetics. If you think about someone having to pour very expensive silicone into a mold, close the mold, take it out, pre-paint it, apply it, paint it some more, blend it out, put all the other pieces on. It's a very expensive
Why
process.
can't you do it?
Because
why
once you tear
can't-
it off, it's gone.
Once
It's done.
once you take it off, it doesn't.
The shortest summary is like if you ever like were to see like one of those prosthetics, let's say it's a bald cap, the edge of it goes from here's the thickness of the silicone, it ends up going into almost nothing, and when you remove it, there's no way to keep nothing.
Yeah.
You have to dissolve it.
It'll
essentially.
it'll tear. Yeah.
But
It's a hygiene.
That-
It's a hygiene thing too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can actually see when they remove a lot of the prosthetics, that little thin flat part he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about will stick to the face still. They'll have to peel that off separately.
And that's just what's necessary to make it look seamless.
So you're doing that every time. So the special effects is making those prosthetic things every single time.
Yeah, so you go, oh, Karen Gillan has to film 50 days. Okay, we have to generate 50 sets
costumes,
at least 50 sets of
Yeah.
This is
appliances.
so fascinating. I feel like I'm in a YouTube video. Like this is so fascinating.
You literally are.
I know, but I mean, like,
did you see Guardians 3?
no,
Oh,
don't yell at me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know the you saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the past when Karen or Nebula is carrying passed out Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
That was a fake Chris Pratt that we built,
I will. Okay.
and so he came to the studio.
I thought they just had Chris Pratt on rig or something.
And that was what he wanted to avoid,
And
is
they
that he
cut it
didn't
all out.
want
They
to
rotoscope it all out.
Yeah, they wanted to be able to do multiple takes. They didn't want to put them on wires. So they go, let's generate a lightweight, realistic Chris Pratt. And so we came to the studio. We molded him in this like kind of passed out
Like
pose.
actual Chris Pratt?
Yeah, he came to the studio.
That's cool.
Very nice, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Wait, and
That's
then-
cool. So he doesn't disappoint.
And
That's
then
good.
after you make this like Chris Pratt, do you guys prank each other like around the office? And,
There's not us, but James Gunn would
What do you-
prank people all the time. He had like a whole scene in the making of Guardians thing where he was like pranking people.
pranking people with
yeah.
it. I
with,
do
with
it.
a fake Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
That's
And
awesome.
Credit to like our hair people and like our painters and stuff. It looks just like
No,
You
it
couldn't
looks
tell
so
the difference.
creepy.
No, it
If I
looks
walked
like if
in
you
and
watch
saw
the
that-
watch the movie, it's legit. I thought it was Chris Pratt. I didn't know it was any different. I would have.
I think
no
it looks
idea.
better in person. Like I'll show you some pictures, but like
Yeah.
it's amazing to me. To, like again, another one of those like what does it take to make it look good?
Yeah.
It takes a girl punching his mustache hair in one by one,
Each
into a
individual
silicone head.
But you can't do it any way different because
Mm-hmm.
if it was off even just a little bit, like us as the audience would be like, oh yeah, we
You
can.
can.
tell.
You just couldn't zoom in. That's the problem. So you want close-ups. You want anything that resembles a real human being. You
But
have
you gotta
to.
have that close up.
And- What's also like kind of it's almost like damning to me is that if you did your job and it looks seamless, like no one bats an eye, but like there's something. The example I use for the Chris Pratt thing is that I built a breathing rig for him. Is that he actually breathes.
Right.
I literally
And
was
so-
just gonna bring that up right now.
And so if that wasn't there, it would look much more like a dummy and just
Dummy.
dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
But with it in there, it looks normal. But like you don't know what you're looking at. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you don't know
Well,
how
that's the
much
idea.
had to
There's
go
You don't
into
know
it.
the
that that's in
uncanny
there.
valley experience is
Yeah.
non-existent.
Finding like just the right bounce in like his head and his arms and stuff. Like we were like
Yeah.
putting like bungee in there. We're like it's too springy. Okay,
Right.
like beef it up a little bit.
Right.
And something that was even
So cool.
I don't know if this was a molding problem or not, but something we also found out that his butt was so big that we had to like it was like I don't think that Karen can even like get her arms, so we had to like shape his butt down a little bit.
To shave his butt
So
down.
we have-
Chris Pratt's
That's funny.
butt had to
That's
get
funny.
shaved down.
Chris Pratt's got a big old
we
badonkadonk.
generated this like polyfoam version of him. We're like, what the fuck? Like,
Holy
this
shit!
guy just been doing squats his whole life.
He squats forever.
That's
I love
funny.
that. I love that he's got a thick back. Chris Pratt's got a thick back, okay? And so does his dummy. Actually, his is less.
Dump truck.
Absolutely.
His dummy is less built because
that's
it's too
funny.
thick.
There are always jokes about like certain actors like wanting like butt pads to like make their butt look good. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely.
he's the one guy who had to shave
did-
butt
No.
off.
He had to shave.
Yeah.
He had to shave down his
Like,
butt.
Chris, can you put on your Spanx, please? Because we need to squeeze you in as tight as we can.
That's funny.
And
we
then, and
need
then
to lessen it up.
it then also comes there's times like the Chris Pratt thing where I go, well, I think you could have done him on wires and it probably would have looked okay. But then there's something that makes me think like, do they? Because I think it's wildly expensive to generate this. I don't know the exact price tag, but to make a fake Chris Pratt is not cheap.
It's not.
Oh, I couldn't.
And I
gosh.
go, is this worth it to you? Is it just that it's worth it to you for like the story, like the realism?
How long did you
like-
use that one little Chris Pratt?
We filmed one day. I think.
It was just one day. So
Yeah.
what do you if you could estimate a cost?
It's just for the Cary scene, right? That's only one, like two shots.
I just want to know how much this fake Chris Pratt with the Dunk has cost me.
I would guess close to 6 figures.
6?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was gonna say
if it wasn't near $100,000,
if it wasn't $100,000, I'd be shocked.
There is
that's so crazy.
Seriously.
there were the pink fleshy suits we made.
Yeah.
I was on set with them, and Dave Bautista was messing, a bunch of stunt guys, and Dave Bautista's close to him, so like he was messing around. He would grab like the spongy butt, and I was like, Dave, you got to buy him dinner first. And he's like, what are these things made out of? And I was like, it's like a weird like polyfoam thing. He's like, are they expensive? And I was like, if I had to guess, I would say each of these suits are about $60,000 or something like that.
My God.
He was like, what?
That's me.
And then I ran through it. I was like, well, we had to do this, and this to make one. He's like, that kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
And again, like it is one of those things where you say these numbers and people go, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And then you go through it with them. They go,
It makes
that
sense.
kinda
Because
makes
you think
sense."
that, like,
Yeah.
okay, we're making a fake Chris Pratt. You're like, fine, cool, have a good time. Okay, now we're doing a mold. We need to breathe. We need the insides. We need the hair, like you said, and you
The mechanics
and
and
the
the-
mechanics,
yeah,
and you're
definitely.
paying people to put all
Yeah.
that on there at the
Like,
same time. So
That
I
one
get
commercial that came to Mike and said that they wanted an oversized RC car.
Mhm.
Remember them?
Yeah,
They were going to pay $4,000 for this oversized RC car.
this conversation costs $4,000.
I'm like, dude, what we're talking about right now, just the concept art is
Yeah.
going to cost you $4,000. Are you out of
it.
your mind?
How big the?
I think it was like the size of this table. It wasn't massive. It was
I
like
was
the size
gonna
of this
say, just
table.
buy a bigger car.
They don't sell cars that big, so but you'd have to make this car. It'd be super freaking custom, and you're probably talking about a $50,000 car. And they're like, "Oh, we got a $4,000 budget. And just go buy a camera and make it look miniature." I don't know.
That's like Power Ranger stuff. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to like make it smaller or make it look bigger.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like that's why we do a lot of big studio things. Is like they understand the cost, what it costs.
The smaller studios have no idea, and the commercial studios have no freaking clue.
They're,
They're not doing that.
Not all of them. Some of the bigger ones, like Shy a Day and whatnot, that
Mhm.
bring in the bigger
Yeah.
clients, they know what the hell they're talking about. But
But this is big shit. Like, or this is big stuff. Like,
yeah,
So on the flip side of things, there's a movie we just the one I did out in Budapest. There's a scene, and I'll try to say this without spoiling anything, to not get in trouble. But there's a scene where this like creature like reaches out of a floorboard and grabs something and goes back in. And so they were like, okay, like we'll do that CG, we'll do the CG. I was like, well, we can do it. Like we have the creature's hand, we have a puppet, like we can just do it practically.
yeah.
And we ended up doing I did it in 2 takes, took 10 minutes. And the VFX guy comes up to me and goes, dude, thanks for doing that, man. You just saved me $50,000. I'm like, that was going to cost you $50,000?
Yeah,
Did
VFX.
Holy
like,
crap!
VFX is no. That's why when people are saying, well, practical is becoming less expensive, it's because VFX is becoming more expensive. It's getting so
the scales
good.
are going back to
Exactly. So now you can almost do, well, which one do you want?
Yeah.
So we're going to dump a bunch of money into VFX. We're going to dump a bunch of money into practical. Well, I really want this to look like an actual thing on the table. Let's go with practical.
I love practical.
I do
I'm a
too. But
practical
there
person.
are some scenarios where practical doesn't make sense, where you can get away with oddball things in visual effects that you can't get away with practically.
I also feel like there is like that perfect like union where like on and I understand the complications. So like one of the complications of like this monster being practical was the VFX guys being like, it's really hard for us to match what you guys are doing practically,
Sure.
something like that. But there is a world where like you use, and Men in Black was a great example. Like there's a scene where the guy is dead on the table and it
The
pops
face
open.
opens up.
And
Right.
so there is a practical version for a little bit
For the close
pulled out,
up. Yeah.
and then there's CG versions and stuff, and I go, that's the perfect marriage
That's
of
perfect.
you
Yeah,
of like
Yeah.
knowing your
two
tools
in
and stuff.
one.
Yeah.
And he
And
says
then-
just a little bit of information in just enough amount of time.
And like, and not just in like an ego way, but like the Fallout Power Armor, for instance, like they were not convinced it was going to work. Like they didn't think it was going to. They weren't. We couldn't convince them that it was going to move right until we did
Like
a
to
camera
pull off
test.
the pull
Yeah,
off
they
the
didn't
look.
think it was
So
gonna
they
be-
were thinking going
They were
VFX on
they
it.
were prepared that there was a possibility
Got
that
it.
it wasn't going
Okay.
to work right, which is another one of those like gambles. I'm like, man, they spent a lot of money making this Power Armor. Like, and if it doesn't work, that's and so like obviously our job is to do it right. But then it shows up and it works right, and they go, now we want to like shoot the shit out of it. Let's use
Of
it more
course.
often.
And we
Yeah.
need more.
Close-ups,
so-
close-ups everywhere. Make another model.
and
Make
so-
another version.
What I mean is not just ego, is that like we don't. It's not like we're seeing. Not like we're gonna get more money because we use it more often.
Sure.
But it does help the relationship to be like
Well, of
these guys
course.
can get us like
Oh,
what
They
we
can-
want
they
and
can get-
stuff.
This is what we want, and they produced exactly
they gave us
that.
exactly
Then
that.
that's freaking awesome. We'll go back to
Okay.
them next time.
But on the flip of that, did you ever spend a lot of money making something and then like say the project got canceled or it just didn't work? Like, was there anything like that ever happened?
There's been like commercials that we've done that never aired for
That
whatever,
never aired, and then-
I personally don't never really hear the answer to it. There's plenty of things that get cut that it's just
Yeah.
Sure.
And then they just kind of exist in oblivion. And
Mhm.
This super suit for freaking Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay.
oh,
Yes.
Steel.
Huh?
Wait, Shaq played basketball?
Wait, are you serious?
I literally no. I thought Shaq
But just an actor?
yeah.
No, he was a basketball
No, he was
player.
a basketball player. He was a really good basketball player at that. Like unbelievable basketball
I
player.
remember Dennis Rodman, but I don't remember Shaq.
That's after.
Was
Well,
it?
at the same time.
Was
roughly,
it the
yeah.
same
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, same time frame. Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay,
Athletes
so
are looking-
Shaquille O'Neal is or was, I don't know if he still is, was a spokesperson for Ring doorbells,
Mm-hmm.
and he was doing a series of commercials at Line 204 in
Mhm.
Hollywood, and he wanted, or their costume shop wanted a super suit for him.
Mhm.
So Global said that they would do it. It was like a $10,000 super suit.
Mhm.
Plus another shop was doing the shoes. They were gonna be light up shoes. I'm like, why aren't we doing the shoes? But who cares? This other company did the shoes, like $20,000 for these
Mhm.
shoes, right? And we get the suit back. I don't know if you remember it in the studio.
No.
Oh, okay. So I had my old seamstress from my
Mhm.
my manufacturing company. Mike didn't have anybody to pull off the job because First Man was so full swing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have this girl that can pull this off. So I call her up. She's all the way in Riverside. She drives all the way out here, takes measurements,
Mhm.
and takes the material and goes back and builds this suit and comes back. I'm like, he's not gonna wear this thing because I saw the
Yeah, why
design.
was it Ixnay on the?
Have you seen Shaquille O'Neal lately?
Yes, he was in town the other day. He just opened a chicken place.
He's kind of fat. He's kind of like me. He's kind of chunky. He's a big.
How did we say he's white?
He's a big
He's
chunky.
okay, but
High
he's a-
calorie individual.
He's a high towery individual.
He's a big dude no matter what. Though.
well, but
Like,
he's put on some weight because he doesn't play
Are
ball
you
anymore.
calling Shaquille O'Neal fat?
I am calling Shaquille O'Neal.
Someone who had to work out his whole life and doesn't want to do it.
Doesn't want to do it anymore.
Honestly,
Exactly.
same.
So-
I feel
so
like
we-
I would. I
we
would-
get to
35 and I don't want to
we
work
get
out
to-
anymore.
say, we get to line 204. I'm like, he's not gonna wear this. He's not gonna wear this. And Mary's like, the seamstress who I brought with me. She's like, I don't know. I haven't. She hasn't
When
seen
did
him.
she? Where did she
So-
take measurements from though?
From specs that they sent us.
Okay,
They
from the
took
specs.
measurements like
She had to drive out here for the specs.
and the material and everything.
Oh, the
else to pick up.
material,
Well, we get to the studio, and he's not a morning person. This is first thing in the freaking morning, and he puts a suit. I have a photo of it. I'll show you guys later. He puts a suit on. I'm like, he's not gonna wear this fucking thing. This is gonna be a waste of $30,000.
What color was it?
Black, and sure enough, it showed everything.
Oh,
Everything.
Unflattering.
And,
It was unflattering, is what
It
you're
was
saying.
unflattering. The Ring still paid, obviously, Global to do the thing, obviously. Yeah, it didn't get used.
Were
He's
they-
like, the
did they
first
make
words
the
out of his
commercial?
mouth, is like, I'm not wearing this thing. Yeah, I
That
told
is,
you.
like,
Yeah.
It's
I-
amazing how far something can go along before you like really confirm with someone.
But-
that,
But they didn't even check with him to see if he'd wear the
that's
suit.
what. Yeah. Well, that's what's
That's their fault.
so. Iron Man 1. This is retellings from my coworkers, but
Yeah.
like Iron Man 1, RDJ wears a full suit.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Fuck that thing. It sucks. It hurts. Let's just do like the waist up from then on out." And then it became like less and less on each movie. And
Really?
stuff. But it was at least explicitly agreed upon beforehand. Versus like
Yes, he
Iron
knew-
Man
Yeah,
2, you're like,
it's
"Here's a new
bad.
suit." He's like, "Dude, I told you I hate that thing."
Yeah, so
I don't want to speak for him, but like, I mean, I get it. It's a skin tight, uncomfortable,
yeah, exactly. And if you're not
hot mess.
working out to fit that thing,
Mhm.
then it's just it is what
And-
it is, man.
know?
Yeah, or what you're saying is Shaquille O'Neal was not
Yeah.
working out to fit that suit.
I get it. Like the mentality of him must be like, I don't have to do this shit.
I
Yeah.
don't need to do
He
this.
literally
he sells
said-
chicken. He's
Yeah,
got other stuff to
the
do.
CEO of the company was there too, and the same guy that showed up on Shark Tank to pitch the idea, the original owner, because he showed up. Shark Tank Ring Cameras was a
Oh,
Shark
it was on
Tank
Shark
thing,
Tank.
and they shot him down.
Yeah.
Now it's a
I believe that.
now it's a multi-billion-dollar company. It's
It
just,
was
crazy.
probably
isn't it
Kevin-
nuts?
This seems like a slam dunk, like even
Right?
on paper.
Yeah,
but
they're like, who's gonna want to put a camera in front of their house? That was a Walmart
everybody.
I don't know.
Literally, I buy one for all my customers when I sell their homes.
Mhm.
I buy them a Ring camera
That's
for
a
a gift.
great idea.
Yeah.
That is such a good idea. Real estate agents, you should steal that. That
Yeah.
is fantastic.
That and the smoke detector, the digital smoke detectors. Anyway, so point being is that it's a multi-billion-dollar company, and the CEO's like, yeah, all right, man. He's like, okay. I
That's
get
what's even more wild to me is that like someone could just be like, all right, we just blew 30 grand.
it. Yeah,
Like,
30,000.
that to
But
me,
it
I'd be like,
was
what?
but it was nothing to them. You know, what I
Yeah.
mean, they were shooting like 20 spots that day.
Mhm.
How much do you think they spent on just getting Shaq?
Shaquille O'Neal. Oh, they probably pay him a mint because he's their spokesperson.
That's what I'm
Again,
saying,
at the
like-
time, I don't know if he is anymore, but
I don't think so.
probably a mint.
I know this is obviously way different, but like I had heard how much Beyonce got paid for that Super Bowl commercial.
Oh, right.
So we built this robot Beyonce thing for this commercial.
Did you really?
And so I had heard that she'd been paid like an 8-digit number.
8-figure number?
Yeah, for a commercial. I'm like,
I
huh?
wish.
So $10+ million.
Yeah.
I
That,
only need to do
that makes
one.
sense, though. That does check out.
But it's insane to me, like the star, like Zoe Saldana did some like Metro PCS commercial. I'm like, it's the gamble to spend that much money to think that this star will bring you
Well,
to make it seem worth it.
the
like,
return on investment is going to be there.
Well, but I feel like there's certain ones that work, like Danny DeVito selling Jersey Mike's, like that kind of works, but they're not probably paying like super dollars. They're not paying $10 million for Danny DeVito.
The problem with TV ads is there's no way to really quantify how much it's bringing in to the
overall scale. You can't.
business.
that actually like made me think about like a streaming thing where it's like you can't technically, it's not as cut and dry as ticket sales,
Right.
because you can't really tell who's buying a Disney Plus subscription to watch what show necessarily.
Correct.
You can maybe line up to be like, this person subscribed right before Ahsoka came out. Maybe that's why
Sure.
they took it.
So
but it's a lot
did
harder
the
to-
show bring that
Exactly.
that
So, like, you
person
don't-
I
in?
think they
know
probably
if-
used that as or at least in the beginning, as how many subscriptions did we get when we released or said that we were going to bring this to the platform. That's how I would go off of it, like number wise.
I'm sure that's how they quantify it, but that's not necessarily the case. Though.
Absolutely not
But then
even close.
you look at the flip side, you go, well, how many people did we keep because we had this new show coming out? And that's something you can't really
Quantify.
Yeah.
You
And
can't.
so like, yes, would you technically be making money off of existing customers? But you can't.
You can't.
You can't know where that money's coming
You
from.
really can't.
So then it becomes, I mean, it's a tale as old as this strike.
Yeah.
That like,
I was it was like, we just had a
residuals-
big strike about this,
Mhm.
right?
it's like
Yeah.
the residuals thing is kind of mucked up because it's not ticket sales. You don't know.
You don't know.
And I get it to a certain degree, but then then the shadier things, and I'm just regurgitating what I've read about, but like,
Right.
to me, it's shady that these companies aren't as willing to share their viewing data. You go,
No, they don't.
they're like,
Especially
well-
Netflix.
Well,
Netflix
because
is
they don't
super
want, because if
secretive.
they show it to an actress or whatever, and they say, "Well, we already gave you your payment or whatever," you can't. They withhold the numbers on
Mhm.
purpose.
Well,
yeah,
no,
They
because
know.
it's
of
you
course
could
they do.
then
but
you would have a number to go against to be like, why
But
serve X?
if they
Yeah.
did that, if they were a little more black and white, I don't think the argument. I mean, I guess their argument would fall apart. Really, the studio's argument, Netflix and Amazon and whoever else, their argument would fall apart because you see how much money it's actually bringing in,
Wait,
or how much money it's not bringing in.
When the strike happened, were you so worried, or were you
So,
okay?
I landed in Budapest the day before the strike happened.
Oh no, you were away.
And I told my wife, I was like, there's a good chance the next day I'm back on a plane.
Yeah.
Right.
And like they told us, they're like, well, I think we're going to qualify for a waiver to continue filming. But I was like, what if we don't? They're like, then we're
Then you're
sending
going
it.
Go
home.
right back.
Yeah, you're gonna take a quick
Thankfully-
break in Budapest.
'Cause
That's
there was
what you're doing.
there was like A-list actors on it. I'm like, they're not gonna, like, we're just puppeteers. Like, no one
Sure.
cares about us, but like, those guys are not gonna come to set if during a strike. And thankfully, like, immediately the waiver went through. But I was
Right.
the first few days, like, while I waited for that to go through, I was just like hanging out in Budapest. It was like,
You're like, so
Wow.
do we stay at the airport? Do
pretty
we go
much.
to the
I was just like,
hotel?
so that it worried me, but I also like we do a decent amount of non-union stuff, so like I knew that there was a chance that they would start focusing on that and stuff. Like,
Sure.
They're like, okay, we're shifting. Anything not union.
Because you're
Pretty much.
on screen, are you part of SAG?
yes.
I thought so.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then is there like a puppeteer union too? Because I
just SAG. This
that's all part of
Because
it,
still,
or that
still
counts.
considered an actor, right?
it's an on-screen credit
Yeah.
essentially.
That's true.
And so like my boss did me a solid on Obi-Wan, and for playing that character, like
Yeah.
one of the ways to get into SAG is to basically be pushed into SAG through production.
Right.
Meaning you can't just like go on SAG.com and say I'm
I'm
SAG
part
now.
of SAG. No, you have to
So
actually
it's
show
very-
proof
yeah,
of.
you
Yeah.
either get vouchers for doing like background work X
Right.
amount of times.
So they push
or,
you through. or
So like
they-
my boss was really kind. He told production, he goes, "This is one of those specialty suits where we want to build it around one of our guys. Do you mind putting him?" And as I understand, I don't think it costs production anything, but I think it's like something they don't just willy nilly do. But production, and my boss told me, he was like, they might not go for this. Just so you know, they might want to use a stunt guy.
It's
They might
real
want.
interesting how that happens, even with like if you're an extra, and they give you a line, you're in a whole new classification now of
for
like
sure.
even just a scream.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You go from like you were
you're
here
no-
to here. So with that,
Featured.
No, because
Yeah.
now
I'm saying with you, it
because
was
now
probably
you're a
this-
woman screaming.
Mhm.
You're
yeah,
no longer
you went from
extra.
extra to woman screaming. So that was probably
Yeah.
what your boss was saying. Is like,
Yeah.
hey, we want it would be the best case to build it around you. You're already here. Like this is going to be easy.
But it still was essentially a favor to me to be like,
Yeah, because they could have put anybody that they already had
They
on
could
set in that
have,
suit.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm
It-
glad that he pushed that for you. That's really cool.
it was kind of a reward because I had agreed to build the thing myself. Like I was like, I'll do it. Like they asked for it,
You're like,
I'll
if
do
you
it.
build it, you can go into it.
It's like a Field of Dreams, like with
Yeah,
for
Right?
puppeteers.
If
If
you
you
build
build it,
it,
they
your
will
name
come.
will, yeah.
But there are plenty of scenarios where it doesn't work out. I don't get the SAG and I don't get to do so because like I've been on commercial sets as a technician, meaning I'm just there to like help facilitate,
For sure.
and then I'm with legacy people that are there as puppeteers, and
Yeah.
like they get busy and they go, well, we need to do this other puppeteer thing on stage 2. They won't let me near it because I wasn't being SAG. So like this at least this opens up their doors for them and stuff.
So
like-
because you're in SAG, you're able to do a lot more.
You can do way
Yeah.
more. That's they can put you from instead of just being technician or whatever,
Mhm.
like, oh, we need a puppeteer thing, like you're gonna jump
Yeah.
in. And honestly, it's smart. It's the smartest thing to do for
So-
from their point of view. Is like have you wear multiple hats.
It's extra tools, and it's like I mean, I think they view me as a reliable person who can represent the company well. They go, okay, we have another person in our pocket that we
Sure.
can use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like some of the guys there, like they have like their heavy hit, like their Jurassic Park guys and stuff. There's only so many of them,
Yeah.
and so like they want as many talented individuals as they can on their repertoire to be able to do it. There was a scene in the last season of Mandalorian where there were 22 legacy puppeteers,
Oh man.
and I was like, yeah, they need as many people, they need as many reliable hands as they can to be able to answer this call and stuff. It was like this robot bar. And like a lot of these robots take more than one puppet. Like Grogu takes 4
You need
puppeteers.
4 people for one.
Yeah, so it's
That's
like
nuts.
we sent an army of people, and so it's like it's nice when they can answer that and not scramble.
Are you?
That's nice.
But are you happy? Like, did you kind of get thrown into a passion that you weren't expecting, but you
Yes.
like ended up loving it?
Cool.
I went to Legacy to build things, and then when I started doing puppeteering and suit work, I was like, I don't expect to be called upon to do this all the time
Mhm.
because there are a lot of people that go, "Where's my next SAG job?" and stuff. And I was like,
Ah.
I'm just happy to be here.
I'm
But
just
it's so fun to be a part of that. Like I you kind of just feel like a little bit more a part of it.
Yeah.
But like I said, like Fallout was cool, built it, get to watch it do it, and that's really cool. But it's a little bit more special, at least to me. This is the way I feel about it. Is that like it's a little more special when I get to see myself on screen,
Then you
even
get
though it's
to
not,
see you.
you know, I didn't.
That's cool.
It's just kind of fun, and then
Yeah.
of course you need.
And I show the kids. I'm like, hey, look, that's
I know that guy.
That's Cary. You know
That's
him.
Cary.
That's it. That's it.
I
That's it.
play, on the last season of Mando, I played a ice cream serving Athorian. This is big
Oh, that's
slug-headed
funny.
alien.
Oh.
It's in the background for 2 seconds, but it was still like
That's still cool,
It
man.
doesn't, but
Yeah.
you know, that's me.
Mhm.
That's me.
I'm
right
like,
there.
not only am I an extra, I'm an extra in an alien
Extra
costume.
alien.
and I'm giving out ice cream, so there's nothing better
It's
than
just
that.
like
Yeah.
double dope. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
well,
cool.
it's very fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming and fascinating me.
Yeah.
Because
Thank you for having me, guys.
I've
Absolutely.
learned so much, and and now with this extra, even the puppeteering, like a whole new world has been opened up to me, and I am ecstatic about it. And
It's one of those worlds that I don't think a lot of people know a lot about.
no, that's
and
why
so it's kind of
like,
fun to
yes, it's,
talk about it.
Oh, I love it. I'm on cloud 9 because
Yeah.
I'm like
We
I
have-
know something all new.
We have
now.
all the prop making stuff in my shop over there. So Ethan
Oh,
freaking loves like
Hell
making
yeah.
random stuff. He's been mold making lately, and
Oh, yeah?
yeah, he's
Didn't
like
he say
super
he wanted
excited.
to go into prop
He
instead
did.
of directing?
He did. I'll talk to you about that in a
Okay.
minute. But yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's why I'm here. I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding. Thank you for having me, guys. This was a
No,
lot of
absolutely.
fun.
Thanks for coming, man. I really
course.
appreciate it. Everybody. I hope everybody else enjoyed this as much as we did. Thank you all for joining. Thanks, Cary, once again, and Brittany as usual. If you guys can do all the things down below, the likes, the subscribes, and everything else, really appreciate it. Trying to grow the channel as well as the podcast, and we need your guys' help in order to do that. And don't forget to,
Backhand that notification bell.
just like Dad used to do. And until the next one, see ya.
Bye.
Backhand the notification bell. Did you come up with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm so tired of hearing slam that like and subscribe button.
Okay.